Among the sea of changes we alluded to earlier, there is a new driver in the snakebite camp. A newcomer named Rick Rattler now wears the mask, and Army talked to him about it.
Well, Gary, in the past, when you saw this insignia and a man with the hood, you knew that Colt Cobra was in town with the snakebite truck. The snakebite truck is going to be here today. The hood's going to be here today. You might even see this, but there is a new driver, Rick Rattler. Rick, what are you doing in this truck?
Well, Colt's in the research and development, Army, and I'm here to prove a point. Colt knows that I can drive this truck just as good as he can, or maybe even a little better. And I'm here to rattle a few cages, and that's why they call me Rick Rattler.
Oh, I love that. The camp we call the snakebite. In round one action, Rattler in the near lane taking on Scott Stevens.
Rattler's snake-like reflexes got him up the start line first, but Stevens out of Woodlands, Texas / Indianapolis, Indiana, mile an hour him on the other end, Gary.
A lot of guys are feeling intimidated by it. I kind of like the new track. I think the truck will do well on it, and I really think the truck will hold up well.
Well, the biggest upset, Army, of round one, Don Van Loo in the far lane shows he can step up and run with the big boys, taking out the snakebite Ford of Rick Rattler.
This is some of that rivalry I was telling you about, where Dodge and Ford are starting to go head-to-head. Dodge takes that round. We told you earlier about major corporate America wanting to get involved in this sport. Well, this is how Deppy rolled over into this round. He put one of the big Ford boys in the big box in order to advance into this round of competition.
In the far lane, and Dan Runte, the near lane, driving Bigfoot. Now, Runte is subbing for Gene Patterson, who was suffering from heat exhaustion last week. We'll talk with Gene later on in the show about his condition. But here, Brass takes out his Bigfoot teammate.
And then when he throws it, he goes into the throttle.
Well, that roll and throw can also throw you a curve, as Andy's teammate Dan Runte shows us in qualifying. Dan, who is still subbing for Gene Patterson, was the second quick qualifier on the day. Now, notice right here that pop as he backfires the Ford Bigfoot.
That could indicate some type of a major timing problem.
A pair of Dodges go out at that time. Now we have a pair of Fords. There's a look at Snakebite with Colt Cobra out of Cobra Creek, Colorado. And he pulls alongside the Bigfoot Ford of Dan Runte. And again, Dan subbing for Gene Patterson, who's taking a couple of weeks off after heat exhaustion.
You talk about sitting in a hot seat. Gene Patterson comes over to take over for Andy Brass in a truck they knew was a world champion caliber, and Runte has to come in and take his place, and this kid is doing a yeoman's job. This kid's a good little driver.
We go back to round one. John Moore near lane, and no problem, but he had a problem right here by virtue of the lane, really.
Well, earlier the drivers were saying how nice the facility was. Right now, if you got to run that right lane, it's about as much fun as kissing your sister. Nobody wants to do that.
And there is a look at the snakebite, Colt Cobra. And he pulls alongside the Bigfoot Ford, Dan Runte. So it's Ford against Ford here in round two.
Notice the yellow light on the right and the orange light on the left. That's a kill equipment we were talking about.
Remember, the fast loser will come back. Oh, look at that. Snakebite got him.
Yeah. Hey, how about that?
Snakebite got him.
So the streak continues. Every win so far tonight, every win has come out of the same lane.
And it looks like Ken Deppy will be our fast loser, entitling him to come back for more competitions. Once again, we take a look at the battle of the boards. Oh, good job. A good hole shot right there by Snakebite.
You got a good race. There's two evenly matched trucks. The lane's the big difference.
Right there is the margin of victory as we go down trackside to visit with our victor, Colt Cobra.
Truck.
Also a highlight from round one and a mismatch. Rick Rattler driving the Snakebite in the near lane, taking on a Ford Leaf Spring truck called Night Stalker, driven by Steve Combs, who didn't offer the Snake much of a fight. And there's a look at Rick Rattler in Snakebite, and behind that you saw the USA truck owned by Everett Jasmer, driven today by Kirk Dabney. Now Kirk is out of Fort Wayne, Indiana, but the truck itself comes from Ham Lake, Minnesota.
You know, we're starting to see appearances of this truck on the circuit. A lot of people ask about it. Dabney's teamed up with Everett, like you say, but nobody's really making 100% commitment to bring that truck back on the circuit, in my opinion. Meanwhile, this kid is the second driver in the line of the Snakebite truck, Rick Rattler. They're teaming up making horsepower. We found out the crew members there, they call them the Rabbit and the Honker, and they're in charge of the research and development. And this kid's coming up as a second driver. He could be the future of the sport.
Once again, this is round 2 action from Canfield, Ohio. It's all snake bites.
I'll tell you one thing, the old Rabbit and the Hawk are flat making a horsepower, and this kid, he's a driver, Gary Lee.
Yeah, Rick Rattler's getting the horsepower down. A good ride. There are the times for both Dabney and Rattler as Dabney goes back to the trailer. And the Rattler will advance as we take another look. Oh, look at him coming out of the gate. Look at him pick the front end up. A great ride. Let's go down trackside and talk to Rick Rattler.
Rick, USA 1 normally can kind of intimidate people. It doesn't seem like anybody bothers you out there.
No, nobody really has today, Army. You know, we had a real good race there against USA 1. He got me out of the hole, but the Ford Snakebite's really running well. We've been running right lane all day, and the truck seems to be carrying the front tires over the first set of cars and just been doing an outstanding job of going straight in that lane, and I really want to come back in that lane.
Yeah, but the rest of the story is one of the Fords keeps coming back. That's the Bigfoot Ford through that quick loser bracket. Sanctioned body, good move. It keeps them racing hard.
Well, you'll recall after his second round run, Ken Duffy was talking about some suspension problems. All right, we are ready now for side-by-side action. The semis, far lane. Barefoot, the Dodge, near lane, the Ford Snakebite. Rattler against Duffy.
New kid on the block in the far lane. New kid on the block this lane. The future of the sport, that's what we're looking at. Boy, wheels up start for Snakebite. Duffy trying to muscle him on the other end.
Oh, which was it? Almost a dead heat. Who won that one, Army?
Man, I don't have any idea.
Well, let's check the times. Duffy's a 5:26, 5:25. You can't get any closer than that.
Oh, man.
By the eyelash.
That's what I like. The sports keep going and growing. Here's 2 new drivers, okay? Driving good equipment. Their mentors are back building better equipment.
Yeah, and let's talk to what has to be a happy Rick Rattler.
Boy, you just took one of the heavy hitters out of this game.
Yeah, we knocked the Dodge out with the Ford Snakebite. You know, we bit him pretty tough, and I don't think, you know, this weekend's going to be a good weekend for the Dodges, but all in all, we're out to see who wins in the finals.
In this program. Time now for the finals, a classic shootout, the matchup between the Ford Snakebite and the Ford Bigfoot. Now, these two have seen a lot of each other this weekend. In fact, the same 2 trucks met in the finals earlier. Last night, on the first day of the Canfield stop, it was all Gene Patterson, as Rick Rattler had some engine problems. But back to today's finals. Earlier, Army had a chance to visit with both the drivers in today's.
We've been talking about the Dodge and Ford rivalry all year long. Well, this guy stopped the Dodge end of it today. It's going to be an all-Ford final.
Yeah, it is, Army. You know, the Ford Snakebite's really been running well today, and I'm glad it is an all-Ford final. The Ford's been running tough this whole weekend, and I guess what I really want to say is the crew's been doing a real good job of keeping the truck running. I really feel confident in the motor, the transmission. You know, we're getting good traction off the line thanks to Firestone, but it all goes to show Fords are the best.
All right, here they are for the finals. Snakebite, the far lane. Bigfoot, the near lane.
Crew members side by side. The drama's up. We told you the story. They contacted the group they call Rabbit and the Hawker about the horsepower, and they told them what to do. It's put them in the final. Let's see what's going to happen now. Ironically, look at the lane Bigfoot decided to choose. He's gone over to the lane that not a lot of people want to mess with because of that little downgrade. But Patterson's comfortable in it, Gary.
All right, they are staged. There is the light. They are underway, and it's going to be Gene Patterson.
Whoa,
Bigfoot, can you believe it? Twice he came back as the fast loser, then knocked out Wildfoot and Andy Brass, makes it to the finals, and then knocks out Snakebite.
Rattler
Rick Rattler.
Yeah, a 528, a strong run, making all kind of horsepower. Patterson, a 520, but that ought to tell the youngsters out there something. You don't quit. Patterson believed in himself. He believed in the crew. He knew he could keep working his way back in, and that's exactly what he did. That's a good classic race.
He also got faster with each run.
Point in time to quick qualifier, just get your lane choice. Rick Rattler comes out, goes a 523, yanking the front wheels, powering it in no man's land. He could definitely be a player.
He's the second quick qualifier this afternoon.
Exactly.
Chevrolet. But the best race of round 1 pitted the second fast qualifier in the Ford Snakebite, taking on Kirk Dabney in the USA 1 Chevrolet. And with a 10-truck format, Dabney would come back as the quick loser and advance to round 2. And that's exactly where we're headed. along with the snakebite fans, as we get a chance to watch another battle between Ford and Dodge. There's Rick Rattler.
Now, Rattler, the second-generation driver for this vehicle, the main driver, Colt Culver, is doing research and development to make more horsepower with the Rabbit and the Honker. Like a comic strip deal. But right now, there is some serious monster truck racing on this line. Dodge is grinning from ear to ear. They got one guy in the next round. Can Fred Schaefer roll over to go against him?
Now there's Fred Schaefer in Barefoot out of Pontoon Beach, Illinois. All right, let's see what this Dodge can do against the Ford. The Ford, the near lane, the Dodge, the far lane.
Look for a wheels up start. And watch the Dodge in no man's land. Wheels up on this side. See what the Dodge does in the middle. Whoa!
Snakebite carries him, but remember, the fast loser comes back. Let's check the times now.
Man, oh man, that was a race.
Fred Schaefer, good run in a losing effort there at 5.26. However, that could be quick enough to get him back as the fast loser. 5.15 for Rick Rattler.
Yeah, the old Rabbit Honker horsepower go to 5.15. That's look at here, wheels up. Now he doesn't even set him down. Does a wheelie all the way through no man's land.
Just does touch the front end down before he hits that second jump. Here's Rick Rattler.
It had to be close.
It was real close, Army. The Ford snakebite's really hooking up good down here, though. Like, you know, it's pulling the wheels in between the cars up there, in between the first and second set of cars, a little higher than we'd like to see, but we're going to have to live with it, and we'll just come back and run it like that all day if we have to.
We'll see the snake in the semis. That's coming up next from Canfield, Ohio. That is called, my friend, experience.
Yeah.
Fred certainly has it.
You know, and he's talking about a 10,000-pound racing vehicle. And that's exactly the same thing you do with a 1,000-pound racing vehicle.
And there's a look at the snakebite truck with Rick Rattler. He'll be alongside Ken Deppy's Dodge Express. Now, last night, the Rattler was involved in a wild semifinal run with Andy Brass in Wildfoot. Talk about lifting the front end. Watch these two guys. Look at Brass.
Yeah, and it'll prove that when a race is over, it's not always at the finish line. Watch the far truck.
Oh, man, Brass up on his nose, over on his left side. He almost rolled that thing over.
Whew. Better he than me, Gary Lee.
Well, that was last night. Now we're back to action this afternoon here in Canfield. We look into the cockpit of Ken Deppy. He drives the Dodge Express. There is the look inside the cockpit of Snakebite.
Told you about the research and development going on with the Ford horsepower with the Rabbit and the Honker. The question, can they get past the Mopar Express? Whoa, again, wheels up start. No man's land. Who's got it, Gary?
Oh, who does have it? Who does have it?
Yumpin' Yemeni, what a race.
That didn't answer my question.
I don't know. It was that good. 5:36 to Deppy. Okay, let's watch the clock.
I will wait now for that time to come up on Rick Rattler. There it is, 5:30. 6/100ths of a second difference. Here is the replay. Rick Rattler wins it.
Chassis difference is one of them's going to finish up, the other one's going to finish down. Let's see who's going to take the win. One a Ford, one a Dodge. Ford's up, Dodge is down, Ford goes to the circle.
That is what 6/100ths of a second would look like. So Ford takes the victory over Dodge. Now talk about photo finishes. How about this one for an instant replay? The last race we brought you from Canfield, it was another Ken Deppy, Rick Rattler shootout involving a virtual photo finish, and once again the Snake won it, and he's standing by right now with Army Armstrong.
You put the big Dodge out.
Yeah, we got one Dodge out, Army, but we got another one in the finals. The Ford Snakebite's really running well. You know, I made a little slower pass that time than I made the time before. Cut a bad light. I can't blame it on the truck at all. We just got to go out and cut a better light, and I think we can get him again.
Well, it's final time here in Canfield, Ohio. This should be a wild one. Rick Rattler in Snakebite taking on the Barefoot Dodge of Fred Schaefer. And Army had a chance to talk to both drivers and get their thoughts prior to the final event.
Gary, the final's going down not only as a Dodge Ford setup, which has got the crowd buzzing, but one of the old-time drivers, Fred Schaefer's going up against a new kid on the block, Ricky Rattler. Does that bother you at all, his experience?
No, Army, his experience really doesn't bother me. The Ford Snakebite's been running really well today, and I think we can really get him in the finals.
Starting line's going to win or lose this race. I'm going to be real honest with you.
That's right, Army. You know, if you don't cut a good light, these lanes are so close in comparison that it'll be a tough race. You know, you got to get out of that hole and you got to run down there hard.
Barefoot against Snakebite. Well, Barefoot was in the finals last night and lost to Wildfoot. The trucks have never met in the finals during the 93 PENDA series. That's the first.
Advantage has got to go to Schaefer. He's an old drag racer. He's been around a long time. I'm not taking anything away from the kid, but man, time in the seat, this is where it pays dividends. They'll leave together. You watch to see if Schaefer doesn't settle down in the middle.
Oh, he's spinning his wheel.
Yeah,
He lost it right there. Rick Rattler lost it right there, trying to cut a good light. He sat there at the line, spinning the tires.
I think what happened, he lost his front-wheel drive on that vehicle. Or he lost his rear-wheel drive. He did not have four-wheel drive. I can say that. Watch this.
Take a look again.
Okay, the front wheels only are turning. See, the rear wheels are barely tracking. Meanwhile, Schaefer, he caught the first thing smoking and went to the other end.
So Fred Schaefer, after losing the Wildfoot last night here in Canfield, comes back to take the victory here this afternoon. And the fast qualifier yesterday would be Rick Rattler and Snake Bite. Now, once again, this was the day before we talked about all the rain. Yesterday was kind of dry, not bad conditions for qualifying.
Yeah, all the drivers were tickled to death with the situation. However,
this is
only
today,
people happy today are the little
This
duckies.
is what it looks like out there right now. Round one competition. It was Rick Rattler, the fast qualifier, against Brian Welsh in moving violation. And it was all Rick Rattler. Welsh had nothing for Snake Bite.
As a matter of fact, when Welsh left the starting line, all four wheels just spun. He literally just slid to a stop up in...
Look at the mud. Look at the rain. It is just a quagmire out here. But the fans are here and the monsters are here.
You know, any other kind of motorsport, everybody would have been back in the hotel right now talking. That's not the case with these monster guys. They came to race. They're going to race. Rick Rattler. This kid's making a name for himself. The owner of the truck, Colt Cobra, is out doing some research and development. He puts Rick in the seat. Rick's going to go up against Ken Deppy out of Jeff City, Missouri. Again, another driver that somebody picked to go into that seat. Fred Schaefer picked Deppy to go into the seat of the number 2 Dodge.
These are kind of hired guns out there right now, and there's the shootout, round 2. Hey, look at this. Well, there's a breakage on the big red Dodge, and Rattler and Snake Bite will advance.
Boy, they're drilling some decent times. What happened? Deppy came off that first jump a little bit crooked. Rules say you've got to hit the second jump with your front tires. He knew he wasn't going to do it, so instead of tearing something up, check the replay out. He just very wisely backpedaled right here. Now watch when he comes off. See, he's crooked right now.
Meanwhile, Rick Rattler sails to the victory, and he's with Army.
Ricky, you guys have really got your hands full out there. You're not only racing a truck in the other lane, you're racing your lane. You're trying to drive your truck on a really less than ideal situation.
That's right, Army. You know, it's really rough out there. PENDA Point Series today, you know, it was really dry and it was nice last night. We did a good qualifying time. We ended up qualifying first, and we're not really changing anything as far as driving habits with this truck just because it weighs a little more than everybody else's, and it seems to be hooking up. You know, me and my crew chief, Kenny, we talked about it, and Hervey, and we worked it out at the beginning of the show, and so far it's working, so we'll see what happens.
Jeff will be Barefoot the Dodge against Snake Bite the Ford. Rick Rattler against Fred Schaefer. And earlier, Army had a chance to talk to Rick about that shootout.
Fred Schaefer and that Dodge are like an old bad penny. They just keep coming back and coming back. You got to put him away.
Yeah, I do. You know, Army, it's real tough. It's wet out here. We got lane choice again. We're going back to the right lane. I think the truck's going to work there. All I got to do is work with the truck. Like I say, the Ford Snake Bite's been tough, but I think we can put Fred Schaefer and that Dodge away.
Well, there is a look at the brand new 94 body style for that Dodge pickup truck. In your right lane, Fred Schaefer. The left lane, Snake Bite, was the fast qualifier in much drier conditions yesterday.
You know, that Dodge truck has got everybody buzzing back in the pit area. People coming from all over to watch it to see how it runs. Right now, it's just a race truck, and he's going on a trailer. Yeah.
Rick Rattler, the Snake Bite. Time 5:53.
Well, the numbers are there today. They're turning some good numbers.
And despite the inclement weather.
Exactly. Well, the new Dodge will have to wait for another day to take his first win. Right now, the kid rolls over into the final.
And I think you'll be seeing a whole lot more of Fred Schaefer in that Dodge as we look one more time.
No, no doubt about it. Schaefer, the horsepower is there. This might be a case, we told you earlier, they're having to detune the engine. Too much horsepower slow you down in the middle.
There's the margin of victory, almost a truck length.
Plus, I want you to notice something else. Every win today has come out of the same lane, and you can't do it in the final. Somebody's going to have to go over into what we call the bad lane. That's where the Dodge was that time.
Well, as we take a look at a very damp Jim Kramer, the Bigfoot crew chief, along with some of the crew members of the Snakebite operation, a great job by both teams to get Snakebite into the finals.
That's just an example of what a quality and class act that the Bigfoot people are. They don't want to beat this guy by him sitting on a trailer. They want to beat him on a racetrack. You know, I respect that because they know full well he actually built that truck just to beat them.
Yeah, and earlier Army spoke to Snakebite's opponent. It was Bigfoot, Gene Patterson, the near lane. Snakebite, Rick Rattler in the far lane. Now keep in mind, Army, that Rattler took the Snakebite truck to the finals 3 times in Canfield, Ohio, but could not come away with a win.
But today, by virtue of choose the good lane, the soft lane, I think that will definitely be to his advantage.
Well, and also, you heard Gene Patterson say there's nothing else they can do to Bigfoot. They have detuned this Ford as much as they can. They cannot change gears. They have to go with what they have.
Watch the finish line. That's what it's all about. Snakebite.
It is Snakebite. Rick Rattler finally takes the victory here at the Indiana State Fairgrounds. Rattler in the Ford Snakebite over the Ford Bigfoot and Gene Patterson.
Boy, that was a good run. And, you know, again, I got to give credit to the crew right there, the Bigfoot guys. They lost the battle, but they may win the war before the season's over.
Well, they certainly won an award for sportsmanship by going over and helping the Snakebite crew get that Ford ready for the finals.
You know, a lot of people don't know that they're the ones that actually found that drive shaft messed up. He didn't know. He was not aware that he had a problem.
Yeah, and they helped to fix it. Then Snakebite comes back to do just that, fight him. Here's Rick.
On what has to be, Gary, the worst day of monster truck racing I've ever been involved in my life. I'm standing with the winner. Hey, it's got to be just as sweet today, whether it's raining or sunshine and blue skies. Congratulations. You definitely earned it.
Thanks, Army. Yeah, it's a little wet, but when you pull a win out like that, the Ford Snakebite running as well as it was, it's kind of hard to face the wet. You know, it still feels just as good. We went into the finals there against Bigfoot. Round before that, lost a drive shaft, and I got to really thank my crew, but also thank the Bigfoot crew because they were over and helped put that drive shaft back in the little time that we had to get back to the racetrack.
Well, congratulations on a good win. Now, let's all go get dried out.
Okay, thanks, Army.
Well, we salute the Bigfoot team. All right, action now from round 1 competition. That is Rick Rattler in Snakebite and Guy Wood in the Hulk, and it's all Snakebite.
Already, the first round, we're starting to notice the difference in the tracks. The guys that were fast and thought they may...
Motorsports has always offered a trade-in technology from one type of motorsport to another as we take a head-on look at Snakebite, and there is Rick Rattler.
Gary, I was just watching the kid out of Cobra Creek, Colorado. As he rolled into the lanes, you could actually see the truck dipping down as Rick is doing a good job with the truck, but you know, this track today gives a new meaning to the word hole shot, doesn't it? You're starting in
yes,
that hole.
It does.
Wow.
Don Van Loo in the near lane. The far lane, Rick Rattler.
Van Loo in a Dodge, Rattler in a Ford. Pull the trigger. Who won it?
Well, obviously we couldn't tell from the crush cam. We'll have to take another look. Rick Rattler at 5:58 and a 5:91 for Don Van Loo. So Rick Rattler takes that victory as we look one more time.
Well, I like that camera they got set down at the track.
Yeah. I think that's a non-manned camera.
I'll guarantee you, I'm not going out to check it out. Yeah.
And there is the margin of victory for Rick Rattler. And let's go trackside now with both these guys.
Hey, guys, both of you, a real good job. The starting line seems to be the trick up there. Horsepower, is it that important today, Donnie?
No, horsepower is not a big concern today. I think it's just good tires, big lugs that get you down the track a lot better than the horsepower will.
Okay, thanks a lot. Hey, Rick, you're moving on. He's going back into the box on the trailer. You get to stay alive today. How do you feel about it?
Pretty good, Army. You know, we switched over to the left lane just to see what it would be like in the last round, and we made it over there, but really had to drive the truck down the track. This lane over here, we ran it quite a bit, you know, and we're starting to feel real comfortable with it. It's a matter of choice. You know, the big holes out here in the right lane, but we seem to be getting better traction over here.
There's Gene Patterson up against Rick Rattler. Rick has been in both the right and the left lanes today, so earlier Army asked him why he's been moving around so much.
Well, we moved over there in the left lane, Army, just to see what it looked like over there. You know, it's pretty muddy out there this weekend, and we're having a hard time picking lanes. I ran the right lane for qualifying and felt that it pulled me a little bit in the center of the cars, moved to the left lane and found out it was really a driving course over there. So we turned around and came back to the right lane. The Ford Snakebite's really doing well this weekend. It's just having a bit of problems, you know, picking lanes because of the mud and the traction with the tires and stuff.
Looking straight on, that's Patterson on your right. There's a look at Bigfoot, Gene Patterson. There's a look at Snakebite and Rick Rattler. And the winner here will face off against Wildfoot and Andy Brass for the championship here in Indianapolis.
Boy, it's amazing the drama right now. As both drivers are in the lane. Light goes green. They're going the other end. Who's going to be the first down there, Gary?
It is, oh, who is it? I can't tell. It looked like Snakebite was trying to carry the front end, maybe not by design.
Okay, a 5.58 for Patterson.
And a 5.61 for Rick Rattler. So Gene Patterson will take his Ford Bigfoot to the final against his old nemesis, his old partner, his old teammate, his old buddy, Andy Brass.
Yeah, but all that'll go on a shelf during the next round. This kid out of Colorado, he keeps impressing me. You know, he didn't lay still for anything. He kept working that truck all day long to make it work.
Ever so close.
Exactly, but Patterson here is going to be lining up against Andy Brass in the final.
Talk about a shootout. Look what's coming up now. Fred Schaefer, the old drag racer, in the new Dodge Ram Barefoot. And he'll pull alongside the mysterious Rick Rattler in Snakebite.
It's kind of like an old-time street face-slapping competition, if you will. Neither one of these guys like each other. Schaefer out of Pontoon Beach, Illinois, runs the supercharged, awesome horsepower Dodge engine, and then Rattler comes up with the research and development situation for the Ford camp with the flashing lights going, and like I say, neither one of them like the other guy. That's putting it mildly.
Well, in round one, the Snakebite out of Culver Creek, Colorado, Rick Rattler had a bye run. Now here's the bye run earlier today.
You know, if you'll notice, he took the bye run out of the lane that he's not running in now. So he does not have a feel for the lane we're going to be watching him race out of right now, Gary. That could cost him.
So once again, as we continue in the quarterfinals, it's the Ford Snakebite against the Dodge Barefoot. Remember, the fast loser will return for the semifinals.
We got a race. We got a race. Check it out.
Looks like Fred Schaefer by what? A couple of feet? So Fred Schaefer's Dodge takes the victory, but let's check the time now for Snakebite. Rick Rattler in losing. Well, there's Fred Schaefer's time of 5:53.
We know he's going into the next round, but there's the magic
There it is,
number.
yeah, Rick Rattler right now, your fast loser. So Rick would advance to the semifinals with the Dodge Express, with the Boogie Van, and with Barefoot. If we take a look again.
Both trucks roll the starting line now. No man's land. They plant the horsepower. Schaefer up on the horsepower, muscles it out of that left lane.
Oh, man, he is really finding the horsepower and is able to get that horsepower to the ground. That's the key in monster truck racing. Yeah, you have to stick it, and you have to have that suspension working as well.
You've got two Dodges and two Fords. One difference is you do have one young lady in this thing. We're down to the final four. When you get to this point, it's not for grins and giggles. Everybody wants to take a win. The drivers have completed what we call a dry hops, the technology they brought over from the sport of drag racing, trying to get the chassis to stick to the ground on the starting line. Ken Deppy, the hired gun, represents Dodge. Kid out of Culver Creek, Colorado, representing the Ford camp with Snakebite. Good camera angle. Gary, this is going to be a rocket ride right here.
Well, keep in mind that Snakebite was the fast loser from the last round, so let's see what he can do now with this 12-truck format. The fast loser comes back from the quarterfinals. Good shot down the track. We are down to the final four. Right-hand side is Snakebite. Left-hand side, Dodge Express.
Look like Snakebite moved first. Dodge trying to muscle in the middle.
Snakebite.
Whoa.
Ricky Rattler, the fast loser from the quarterfinals, comes down to 5:31. He keeps getting faster. The Dodge Express of Ken Deppy will go back to the trailer. And the win goes to Snakebite, Rick Rattler.
Boy, that truck moved quick in that far lane.
He got off to a very good start, a good hole shot, and there is the margin of victory. Oh my, a wheel at most.
At most.
One more look coming right at you. Left-hand lane is Snakebite.
No man's land is where the Dodge lost it.
And Army is down to talk to our winner.
Ricky, tell me about that last race. It looked awfully close.
Yeah, it was awfully close, Army. You know, the Ford Snakebite's running well here today. We got took out first round there by Fred Schaefer, you know, and it's been a tough track to decide how to drive on it, and that's what's really making it tough out here. It's sand. It's just really different than what we're used to racing on.
Tough trucks. It's meant to be fun, and it is.
Well, this is not fun for the drivers. This is the final shootout. Barefoot, the Dodge, Fred Schaefer, and he goes up against Rick Rattler. In Snakebite earlier, Army talked to both.
Gary, we've been here before. These guys have gone tooth and nail all day long. A tough, tough day. This guy got a piece of you earlier. Can you handle him?
It's going to be tough, Army, but I think the Ford Snakebite can really do a good job. It's been working, you know. Like I said earlier, it's just deciding on how to drive it. I think we figured it out that last round. I think we can push this truck as hard as it'll go.
Well, now, once again, remember, these two matched up in round 2 competition in the quarterfinals, and it was Barefoot taking that victory, and Snakebite was the fast loser of the quarterfinals. Yeah, but he came back.
You don't race by looking behind you. You race by looking in front of you. From right now forward is what counts. What happened in the past doesn't mean a thing, but I tell you what, both of these guys are going to leave quick. Snakebite knows he's got to get him on the starting line. Fred told you that. He said he can muscle him in the middle. The kid in the far lane has got to drill the big Dodge on the starting line. He did it. He did it, Gary.
Good hole shot for Rick Rattler, and Snakebite. Look at the margin of victory for Snakebite. The Ford takes the win over the Dodge of Fred Schaefer.
And the crowd goes crazy here in Naples, Florida.
A 593, but remember, we saw earlier a 536. Rick went 531 in that lane.
He said he had it figured out. Amen to that. He definitely had it figured out.
So once again, after being beaten by Fred Schaefer in the quarterfinals as a fast loser, he comes back and he's going to take the victory. He's going to take all of it.
Exactly. But the starting line, thousandths of a second. See, he was back down on the ground in no man's land while Fred was still in the air. We're not taking anything away from Fred, but that Ford fought to the top to take the win here.
But all season long, this Dodge Barefoot will be a truck to reckon with. I mean, they have come back. They have arrived.
They're definitely serious, and they're going after these guys.
Let's go down out of Victory Lane and talk to Rick Rattler.
Gary, I tell you what, he's climbing out of the truck now. The crowd's going crazy. This has got to be a great day for you. That was a big win.
The Ford Snakebite's really running well, Army. You know, like I said, we had a hard time adjusting to this. We got the truck dialed in thanks to Kenny and Herbie and Dale. You know, the crew, they really worked with me on this to decide how we were going to drive this track, and it worked well.
I was going to buy a pickup truck tomorrow. What brand should I buy?
You better buy a Ford.
Another good truck commercial, this time for Ford. Brass at 520. And now we look at Rick Rattler, the right side, Mark Hall in the left lane.
Ford on the right, Chevy on the left. Let the race speak for itself. Hear them winging that throttle when they're flying through the air, that wah, 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 wah. They're really working that throttle.
There's a look at Rick Rattler.
Fun place to be.
Yeah, don't forget they run stock cars here as well, so a true multi-purpose facility. Well, now, Army, you have some thoughts on this next matchup, featuring the Snakebite with Rick Rattler and Dodge Express with Ken Deppy.
Gary, I don't care what anybody says. Corporate America is involved in this sport. Right now, we've got a situation where Dodge just beat a Ford. Barefoot just put Bigfoot out. On the starting line, we've got another scenario where Dodge Express is going after the Snakebite truck. Another Dodge Ford scenario. You win on Sunday, you sell on Monday. That's the bottom line. Let's see who's going into this next round.
All right, will it be Dodge? Will it be Ford? And there is a look at Ken Deppy out of Jefferson City, Missouri in the Dodge Express. And he'll pull alongside Rick Rattler, Cobra Creek, Colorado, in Snakebite.
You'll notice that Deppy comes into this thing, and he'll do the dry hop to that Dodge, the vehicle closest to us. They find out that makes that truck leave the line a little bit harder. The dry hop, in other words, false starting before the race, where they can get everything ready to go. Meanwhile, the Colorado Ford, he just went to the line and waited. What a race.
Oh, who was it? Who was it?
Looked like a P-51 Mustang nosing over at that finish line. I believe the Dodge with a 5.33 will make it an all-Dodge final. Let's wait and see.
5.33 for Deppy as we wait for the Snakebite 5:36. Indeed, Deppy will advance. So it looks like Bigfoot is the fast loser. He will come back to comprise our 4-truck field for the semis with Barefoot, Bigfoot, Wildfoot, and the Dodge Express. And there is the margin of victory, just that close for Ken Deppy. This is more. Also in round 1, Rick Rattler in snakebite would best Brian Welsh in moving violation.
And once again, the starting line showing it will hold the horsepower.
Rick's time of 3.85. Go up against Rick Rattler in snakebite. Great shot of the Ford, no problem.
Now, John Moore and this vehicle have tried to bring over a lot of the technology from the sport of off-road racing. He's out of Lafayette, Tennessee. He and his lovely wife, Heidi, and her daughter, Jill, they put their heart and soul into this operation, but you mentioned the word tweak a while ago. They just can't seem to get the truck to react as quick as a truck such as a snakebite truck with its type of suspension.
A pair of Fords,
but two completely different philosophies in what's going to make a monster truck run. Rick Rattler out of Cobra Creek, he's running a tried and true setup, the 4-link type setup. But John Moore in the far lane runs a leaf spring setup. It's very successful off-road, but we're not running 2,000 miles or 1,000 miles of Baja. We're just trying to go about 200 feet inside the Hoosier Dome.
And these vehicles make a ton of horsepower, and we can tell you a ton of noise. Just kind of reverberates throughout this huge facility in downtown Indianapolis.
Huh?
You heard me. And it's all Rick Rattler in snakebite. The snakebite will advance. I would not think that John Moore's time will be quick enough to make him the fast loser. Make that a 3.73. Yeah, John Moore at 4:10. So Barefoot would be the fast loser. He'll come back in the semifinals. One more look at the victory for the snakebite Ford.
What's amazing is the snakebite, how he powers the front wheels up with that 10,000-pound truck.
Rick Rattler is standing down with Army Armstrong as he climbs out of his rig.
Rick, I tell you, John Moore looks like he had a handle on this thing tonight. He gave you a good race.
Yeah, he did, Army. The Ford snakebite's really running well. You know, I've been cutting good lights all night. Thanks to the crew, we've been staying on top of that. That time there, I don't know what happened. I think I was taking a nap or something. I can't blame anything on the truck or anything else. You know, this track's really hooking and we're really running and it's working well.
So the snakebite will be one of 4 trucks in the semifinals. Coming up now, we'll have Wildfoot, the near lane with Andy Brass. He is staging against snakebite and Rick Rattler.
Rattler will be in the oldest designed truck out here today with the 4-link type suspension. Meanwhile, Wildfoot comes out, Andy Brass, the other Ford. Snakebite, Gary.
All right, snakebite the far lane, Wildfoot with Andy Brass the near lane. The winner will take on Bigfoot for the championship here in the Hoosier Dome.
Boy, Brass looks like he and the crew have found the right combination.
Brass a 3:56, so he will go to the finals. We take a look now at the time for snakebite, a 3:66.
He was right there, Gary.
Yeah, but Andy Brass will continue on, so it will be Bigfoot and Wildfoot in the finals here at the Hoosier Dome in downtown Indianapolis. There, a look at the margin of victory. Well, back to the action now at the starting line, snakebite and Bigfoot, and there are the crew members.
We've got another competition, the international arm crossing competition between the crew members.
All they can do is watch. They prepare these trucks the best they can, so now it's up to Gene Patterson and Rick Rattler for the championship here in the Hoosier Dome.
Rattler's not even supposed to be here, so I guarantee you one thing, he is not going to let anybody blink on him. He's got something to prove. The only reason he's here is Andy Brass could not make the call. Bigfoot worked his way to the final, Gary. Keep an eye on that snake truck. He's got something to prove right now.
And he did it. He did it, snakebite. Rick Rattler.
What a run.
Takes the victory at a 3:75.
You almost knew when he got the call to come back into it, he's like a fighter getting second wind. He was going to prove that he could run with these old boys. And guess what, Gary Lee? He did just that.
A look again at our final run here in the Hoosier Dome. Ford against Ford, and there is the margin of victory for Rick Rattler. One more look now as he knocks out Gene Patterson and Bigfoot. Let's go to victory lane, Army.
What can I say? Congratulations. A It didn't come easy. Had to work for every inch of it, but everybody's so proud of you for this win. I mean, all the other teams are just really happy you won this one.
Yeah, they are, Army. You know, Ford Snakebite's really been running well. I got to thank my crew. I got to thank Kenny. The guys back in the shop. Colt's going to be real happy with this one. You know, it's not as good as we did last year, but it's doing well, and we'll be back again next year to get this blue truck. I'm quite sure of that. It's just, I'm really rattled. I got to go call somebody.
For the second straight season, it's been Snakebite winning here in the Hoosier Dome. That'll wrap it up from Indianapolis. We'll see you next week on Trucks and Tractor Power.
Dan Runte, new kid on the block of Bob and Marilyn Chandler's operation. He'll be driving the Bigfoot Power Wheels vehicle. That's the new Bigfoot black truck with flames. He is going to be a player today. Keep an eye on this kid. He's a new kid on the block in the stables.
Who moved from the Bigfoot operation over to Don Van Loo's team to run against the guy who replaced him driving for Bob Chandler, Dan Runte. And it is...
Runte drills him with a 5.5 shot. Now notice the new colors on the Bigfoot truck they call Bigfoot Power Wheel, Gary.
There is a look at Andy Brass's teammate Dan Runte in the Bigfoot Power Wheels. Actually, this is Bigfoot 14. And earlier, Army asked Dan what it's like to step into those big shoes.
It's a beautiful truck to drive. The 4-link we've changed. The back suspension, we no longer run a cantilever. We run a 28-inch shock, which is straight up and down. It makes the ride a little different. It's a good driving truck, and it's a real privilege to be out here running this with all these other guys.
Well, he goes against a heavyweight in Fred Schaefer. Notice the new paint job now on the Dodge. There's a look at Fred out of Pontoon Beach, Illinois, and he is always a factor.
This is going to be an old-time slapping contest because you got bragging rights on the line. Number 1 Dodge in the far lane, new kid in the Ford near lane, new sponsor. Everybody's trying to impress everybody. You call it, Gary.
It's all Dodge. All Dodge as Fred Schaefer has some trouble on the landing. There's a 5.16 for Schaefer. Not a very good day for the Ford Camp and Bob Chandler.
Well, I was going to say, in the last 2 races, Chandler's put 2 of his big guns back in the trailers.
Look again. It looks like the whole shot for Schaefer. Bit of a wheelie right there, and it's all Fred Schaefer. Barefoot, the Dodge takes the victory.
Himself in monster trucks, and he is doing it rapidly.
Dan Runte had a single in round 1. There was a problem with the kill switch on Gene Patterson's truck, so the Bigfoot Power Wheels vehicle had the bye run, a single, and a 5.55. So look at your fast qualifier. That is overkill. Kirk Dabney comes out of Columbia City, Indiana. He pulls alongside Dan Runte in the Power Wheels Bigfoot. And earlier, Army had a chance to take a look at this vehicle.
Gary, while walking through the pit area, we found something I want to point out to the people. A lot of folks don't realize that monster truck chassis are adjustable, and they do adjust them in order to make the truck react differently. Proof in the hand. Look at here. When they went out to qualify first, the 4-link bar was in this hole right here. They didn't like the way the truck reacted, so they dropped the bar down 3 more inches. Now what that does is changes the complete geometry of the suspension. This is a 4-link suspension, so when you drop it this much, it changes the whole geometry of the suspension, allowing the driver to actually adjust the truck. So this proves, just like any other form of motorsport, circle track, they put wedge in, or they take wedge out, or they put stagger in, they take stagger out. This proves that a monster truck chassis is adjustable, and they do use the adjustments. Back to you, Gary.
Yeah, this is high-tech motorsports at its best as round 2 competition now gets underway. Dabney, the near lane, Runte, the far lane. Oh, who was it, Army?
Oh, it's not over yet. What a run. We wanted the folks at home just to see what it's all about and get a little bit of the excitement in this sport when those motors start to roar.
5:20, Kirk Dabney takes it 3/100ths of a second. He takes the victory.
Got to keep the wheels on the ground to make the horsepower stick. Both drivers leave good, but watch the chassis unloading the far side. That was that bar we told you about just a moment ago. The chassis change didn't work.
Round 1. Now, the best time of round 1 and qualifying would be turned in by Dan Runte in the near lane with the Power Wheels Bigfoot. Always tough to beat. So Paul Schaefer now in the Monster Patrol taking on Dan Runte's Power Wheels Bigfoot.
Well, this is going to be the battle of the bad boys in black. One of them from Chevrolet Camp, Monster Patrol, as you said. Paul is a past world champion in the mud racing competition. He's relatively new to monster trucks. Meanwhile, Runte comes over with the same name we've heard before, Bigfoot, but it's the Power Wheels Bigfoot, sponsored by the people who have these little Power Wheels you get in discount stores around the country, you know. So your little kid can drive a truck just like this one, but right now, all that goes on the shelf. The first one to see green going to the other end, trying to make it a 3 in a row for Chevrolet. I don't think they're going to do it, Gary.
No, not today.
Whoa,
Power
Schaefer's
Wheels
in trouble.
Bigfoot. Yeah, Monster Patrol had some trouble on that last landing. Got her wove there in the shutdown area. No harm done. But a victory for Ford. Dan Runte in the Power Wheels Bigfoot, a 5:17. Look once again. Now watch the far lane as the Monster Patrol lands that last time.
You have to hit flush with what you're going after. He did not. He had it left side first.
Here's Dan Runte with Army.
Dan, there's nothing but bad boys left in this thing today.
Yeah, it's rough out there, Army. There's a lot of difference between lanes. Firestone Tire's been helping us a bunch again. We're getting a good bite off the line. We're leaving the line hard. Got to thank the crew, though. They got this motor dialed in. The Ford Power Wheels Bigfoot's really hooking up today. We're excited. I really think we can go all the way.
Enough about the crew. You're doing a good job, too. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, Army.
Well, Team Bigfoot will have 2 trucks in the semis. Andy Brass will advance as the fast loser. So Dan Patrick will be in the championship against one of these 2. There is the Power Wheels Bigfoot with Dan Runte in the near lane, and the far lane, the Carolina Crusher and Gary Porter, another Chevrolet Ford battle.
What is unique here is that this is the first time we've had a Chevrolet in the final this year on the whole tour of the PENDA Points Series. So, like we said earlier, maybe the bow tie boys are dressed up for prom night. They're trying to put 2 of them in the final. We know one's going to be here, but I guarantee you, Dan Runte's going to try to be the bad boy on the block and get a Ford in there, too. He moves quick.
He got a good hole shot, and yes, that was all he needed to take the victory. So Dan Runte in the Power Wheels Bigfoot with a 5:27. It will be Ford and Chevy in the final. An observation, you made a good one. First time we've had a Chevy in the finals all season long in this PENDA Points Championship. I'll look again, the hole shot on the left side.
Yeah, but keep an eye on the far side because Porter's right there with him. Look how close these races are. Ladies and gentlemen, these things are coming down to literally thousandths of seconds right there.
Let's go down track side.
Well, hot day, hot competition, but you're going into the finals.
Yeah, we are, Army. Like I said, that right lane's been hooking up good for us all day. We lost a little time over the first set of cars on that one. Made it a little tougher. We lost lane choice on that round also. You know, it's going to make a difference this time.
Patrick wants the right lane. He's going to go there. You're not, so you might as well forget that. How are you going to drive different out of the left lane?
Well, we ran a left lane in qualifying, and I really don't feel like it's that much difference, Army. It's pulling trucks to one side more than the other. You know, that's something you got to watch for coming down in between the cars. But as far as driving it, the way Patrick's running the right lane, we're going to have to run it as hard as we can.
Every win has come from the right lane, and Patrick will have the right lane for the championship. It's a fame. Well, we're set for the finals. Dan Runte in the Power Wheels Bigfoot. Earlier, we got some thoughts from Army Armstrong on the finals.
Gary, there's always a story within a story. The big story today is a guy named Gene Patterson. He's not even driving a truck. He's the crew chief on the Samson truck. However, this time last year, Gene Patterson was driving the Bigfoot truck that the truck he's crewing against is going against in the final. You talk about a guy that may have mixed emotions. Let's keep an eye on Patterson, see how this thing goes down. Plus, it's the first time we had a Chevrolet in a final in a long time. The old Chevrolet and Ford battle going to the final at Bloomsburg. This is what the sport is all about, Gary.
Well, down deep inside, he may have some mixed emotions, but outside, he's going to be pulling for the bow tie Chevrolet, and there's a look at Dan Patrick. As we mentioned earlier, Dan has built a number of the chassis in competition here this weekend, and he will stage the Chevrolet against the Power Wheels Bigfoot, the far lane, the Ford of Dan Runte, and look at this, the crew chiefs converse.
An interesting point, though, is the right lane. You talked about a moment ago, all the wins have come out of the right lane. Quicker time in the previous line gives you lane choice. That puts the Chevrolet over there. We may have our first Chevrolet winner, Gary.
We do. Dan Patrick, look at the jubilation there by Gene Patterson as the Chevrolet, the bow tie brigade, takes the win. It's been a long time since we've said that.
I guarantee you, Dan Patrick is pumped because in an earlier interview, he himself said this PENDA Point Series is the best monster truck series in the world, and to win it, he has got to be grinning from ear to ear. I bet he looks like a Cheshire cat back in the pit area.
Well, there's a look at the Power Wheels Bigfoot headed back to the pit area. One more look coming right at you. The win comes in the left lane, and there is the margin of victory. Oh, look at the air coming off that second jump for Dan Patrick. Then Dan Runte is in third position. Round one competition, Runte goes up against Paul Schaefer. As we told you earlier, Schaefer was knocked out. Here is the run to put him on the trailer, and there's the margin of victory for Dan Runte in the Power Wheels Bigfoot.
But you got to remember, in this sport, a quick loser can possibly come back, so it's to your advantage to run hard. Schaefer goes, good this.
We're ready now for round 2 competition. The fast qualifier Dan Runte prepares to battle Gary Porter. Now we'll show you how Porter got to round 2 as we go back now to some highlights from round 1. Gary Porter was matched up against Pam Botters.
They're starting to close in on these guys. Porter won the battle, but he may have lost the war because he lost lane choice. This right lane is almost mystic about how much horsepower it'll hold. And you watch, everybody gets quick qualifying time. I'm predicting it's going to go the right side today.
Right lane belongs to Runte. Left lane, far lane. He's in trouble. Gary Porter. Oh, he hit that water barrier over there.
Yeah, the Yodoc barrier system comes in handy. They're designed right down the road from here. So if you're going to test one, I guess this is the place to do it.
Well, you can see the damage despite the Hydra barrier. You can see the damage to the front of the Carolina Crusher. The front was crushed that time. Now watch again the right side of your screen.
The problem is in the lane. Andy Brass had trouble over there. Gary is too. See, the trucks are not coming down straight. They're coming down goofy. Then they hit water barriers.
That'd really be goofy.
Yeah.
You get wet and goofy.
8 pounds per gallon. That's a couple thousand pounds he's tagging there, but the barrier did exactly what it's supposed to do. It absorbed the energy, and if it'll absorb the energy of a 10,000-pound monster truck, they got to work for highways.
Bigfoot.
You get down into this thing, it's a Dr. Scholl's special. You know why? 3 of the 4 trucks got foot in the name.
So you get paid the big money for coming up with lines like that. Well, of course, you have this analytical expertise because you can tell us why that left lane has been so bad. All the winds coming from the right lane today. Army earlier looked at the left lane. In this sport, they want weight transfer front to back, but not side to side. We prepare now for a Bigfoot shootout.
Couple of vehicles that are identical. Firestone,
Ford.
supercharged by BDS. Keep going.
What you're saying is these trucks are almost identical.
Yeah, if you're in the decal business, you got all kind of decals out there right now. All the sponsors represented on the side of these guys. And you know, they do bring a lot of exposure to their national sponsors, and that's what it's all about. Looky here.
Near lane. Oh, Runte really drilled Brass. He got the whole shot, and it was all Dan Runte.
Dan Runte caught a Brass asleep at the wheel.
Boy, that's something you just don't see.
No, well, the ET wasn't there either, a 560, so.
Take a look again, but the left side there, lane nearest the camera, and a big hole shot, a big margin right there for Dan Runte. And here is Dan Runte with Army Armstrong.
It looks like a real hard race between you and Andy, but it looked like he had some kind of a problem on the starting line. Were you aware of that?
No, I wasn't. He didn't say anything. We all got radio communications. He didn't say anything on the line. It appears he lost his brakes on the line, so he had to go up to neutral to stay at the line without falling through into the red light beam. It was real tough. I figured he'd be more of a run than that, but with the problem like that, you can't do anything but what he did.
There's Dan Runte and Jim Kramer looking over the lane as let's go down trackside and talk to Fred Schaefer. We are now set for the finals. Fred Schaefer and Dan Runte. There is Runte to your right, Fred Schaefer on the left. It's Ford against Dodge. No Chevrolet today. Schaefer has lane choice. He's in the right lane, putting Dan Runte over on the far side. And earlier, Army asked Runte about that lane.
Yeah, I kind of figured that was coming, Army. You walk out here and look, and that right side's a little better. We looked at the left lane, Jim and I did. Actually, the left lane doesn't look as bad as I thought it did. I think we can come out here and run a good race in that lane. We'll just have to wait and see what it boils down to.
Okay, it's final run of the weekend. You got all week to put it back together. Does that change your mindset? We have a little bit of kamikaze in here right now.
Yeah, we sure do, Army. It's like Jim and I were just talking about. He said, unless if you're really crooked and really out of shape, he said, you're going to have to stab this thing for all it's worth.
All right, very simple strategy. Hammer down. In the near lane, nearest to you right now, Fred Schaefer.
We're talking to Dodge Ford, but you also got Firestone and Goodyear. You got bragging rights, sponsors' names on the sides of the vehicle. They're both going to the lanes.
All right, Fred Schaefer near, Dan Runte the far lane. This is for, as they say, all the marbles here in Bloomsburg.
They leave together, first jump together, no man's
Looks
land,
like
Gary.
The Ford.
Yeah.
The Ford, Dan Runte in the far lane. Dan Runte takes the victory. Fred Schaefer at a 5.067. But look at Runte, 4.96.
The quickest ever. The quickest ever, a 4.96 for the Bigfoot Power Wheels team. Dan Runte doing the driving in the final on a beautiful picture-perfect run. Both drivers, nothing to be ashamed of here. This was a clean race.
And there is the margin of victory as we go down trackside, Army.
The fastest monster truck run in the history of the sport is
4.967. Dan Patrick was the first to go into the Ford today with a Chevrolet, but you guys with the Fords came back and went, that's the quickest ever.
We've been shooting for Fords all weekend, Army. I don't know what to say, but got to thank the great crew we got, Bob and Ford Motor Company, for letting me be out here. I love it.
I'll tell you what, you're doing a fine job. You're an awfully good driver when you came into the thing. Jim, come over here real quick. You got to be proud of this kid. You guys are the quickest in the world now.
He's coming on. I tell you what, we talked about it. He knew what he had to do. And the truck, we kept getting a little more. We're squeezing the truck tight. I got to admit that. But this Ford's coming on. The Firestone's bit. Fastest time, fastest monster truck ever. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Hey, if I was going to buy a pickup truck tomorrow, what kind should it be?
Better go buy a Ford.
4.96, Bob.
All right, bud.
You can hear the emotion in Dan Runte's voice. Kirk Dabney. So a big day for Dan Runte and the Bigfoot crew. The Power Wheels Bigfoot takes the victory here in Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania. Trucks and tractor power. Now here's news and exciting video release from Diamond P Sports.
Get to see Van Loo a lot. As Dan Runte comes up, he'll be driving the Bigfoot Power Wheel vehicle. You don't get to see the Hall brothers or Pam Botter either, but these are good monster truck racers. They're just having trouble getting past the first round. They're doing great by qualifying, but getting past the first round into the TV round, they all want to do that.
Well, a pair of Fords right here. The Power Wheels Bigfoot, the nearest lane to the camera, and that's the lane everybody wants to be in. So let's see what happens here. Colt Cobra in snake fight in the far lane, a pair of Fords.
Well, if any animal in the world is going to like gooey, slimy weather, it's got to be a snake. Let's see if he can do it. Hey, he's out on him.
Oh, he had a good hole shot. Yeah, well, I don't know. It looked like Runte got him at the very end by perhaps a headlight. 5:38. 5:38 for Dan Runte to a 5:46. Indeed, the snake bite had the hole shot. But somehow that Ford Power Wheels Bigfoot got down in no man's land, hooked up the horsepower, and made a run at him.
Snakebite moves on him and hangs just a little bit. Right there is what happened. He hung just a little bit. Dan Runte got down, planted the horsepower, and went on to win.
So Dan Runte takes the victory, and we're going to take the unique look from our crush cam as Runte goes right overhead, as he will take the victory, and Colt Cobra will have to hang around to see if he's the fast loser.
Tell you what, right lane is good, left lane's bad. Simple as that.
Yeah, actually, Army, that pass there, I was just explaining to Gary, the crew chief here, didn't feel like it was hooking up as hard as it did the pass before. It turned in a real close time to the pass we made before, but it just seems like that lane's starting to go away too. I'm not sure what we're going to do here in the next round.
We had the same scenario at Bloomsburg, and one guy came out and won the whole thing. That was you out of the lane that nobody else could win out of. Could that be the scenario here tonight? That left lane could be the lane to be in the final?
It could very well be, Army. You know, like I said, it just seems like it's a little slower off the line. The Ford Bigfoot Power Wheels is really doing a good job. I mean, it's dialed into the track like this. It's working well. It just seems like it's not pulling as hard, and it may be the lane to be in.
And that could be the guy to beat this evening, Dan Runte in the Power Wheels Bigfoot. Well,
It's the physical condition of the track they're running on.
yeah, you can see the mud there on the Power Wheels Bigfoot. Dan Runte is staging that Ford, and in the near lane will be the Barefoot Dodge of Fred Schaefer. First, before we run these two guys off, let's go back trackside. Of course, that was earlier, and this is now Fred Schaefer, the near lane, the big Dodge against the Ford of Dan Runte in the far lane for the right to meet Andy Brass for the championship here in Springfield. As they stage, who's it going to be?
Well, I tell you, you can cut the drama out there with a knife.
Again, both very slow off the
Oh,
start
Schaefer's
line.
in trouble, Gary.
Now, Fred Schaefer had a very poor run as Dan Runte advances to the championship round at 5:43, but not a good run for Fred Schaefer. He had trouble with that truck. He got off to the right. And there he sits down there in the shutoff area. So obviously a problem with that particular. As we take a look again from the crush cam.
Yeah, but the word we're going to get is when Fred finished this run, he's already knocked out one crush cam this year. This was the second.
Well, he's taking out his anger on the crush cam as he gets eliminated from competition.
You just put the big Dodge on the trailer and didn't blink an eye about it. You seem to have a lot of confidence right now.
Actually, the Ford Power Wheels Bigfoot's really running well. Like I said before, Army, it's hooking up. Firestone tires is really, they're working in the mud out here. I mean, I gotta give them credit. It's been real lane choice here tonight. And Fred, of course, came into this with the faster time, had lane choice, pushed me over there in that other lane. You know, we talked about that, and you know, it was tough. We talked about it amongst the crew and everybody else, and it was just tough going, but we made it over there in that other lane, and we figured we could.
Well, Dan, of course, proves again he's one tough Ford competitor, and Bigfoot goes up against his teammate, Dan Runte, in the Power Wheels Bigfoot, and earlier, Army caught up with him.
For the second week in a row, there's only been one truck that can figure out how to win in a bad lane. He's going to the final. Dan Runte, how do you do it when nobody else can?
Actually, Army, that lane has got better all night. It's just, it's not a choice that I want to go over in that lane, but I don't know, it's something that we're going to have to try and see if we can get the truck to hook up. Like I say, it's been hooking up and running real straight. I think we can go over there and be real confident for to win.
Well, he's always confident in his equipment when you're racing with Bigfoot.
One thing for sure, Ford will win. It's just a question of which Ford.
Well, this is going to be a tough one to pick because we have seen Dan Runte really come on this season. He is second in the PENDA points right now, but he's certainly closing the gap down on Andy.
He's the kind of guy, if he's a sprint car driver, he'll be trying the lane that nobody else tries. And it's worked for him all year long, so you don't mess with success. You know, if
everybody else is running the cush, he's going to go down the inside and try the pole.
Or if they're on the bottom, he'll run up top. But tonight, he just got to go to the other end.
Yeah, he has no choice but to take that left lane because Andy Brass had the lane choice. He takes it right. Look at him spin the tires.
A lot of wheel slippage on the starting line.
And it is, and was Brass disqualified?
I don't know. The rules say those front two tires must hit the object they're jumping.
Apparently not. 536. They give Andy Brass the 536. Dan Runte the 556. So Andy Brass wins it. There was some question there at the finish if Andy Brass had made a legal pass. Watch again. Watch the left side of your screen and watch the far side. Watch the far tires.
They have to make contact. Yeah, they hit something. Look how far over he went.
Man, he's talking about high-siding a truck.
But that puts him in the national points lead. That battle, we completely forgot about that. Here's another shot of it. He was almost, he'd have gone into the next round. Not to be the case. But also in that round, Gary
Wiggins in the Carolina Crusher was also a DQ as he goes out of bounds.
So all of a sudden, the story of the night is you don't want to go on the left side of this racetrack.
Well, this should be a good matchup. Fred Schaefer, the fourth fastest qualifier here this evening in barefoot, the Dodge against the second fast qualifier, Dan Runte in the Ford Power Wheels Bigfoot.
And one of the big stories all year long has been Fred Schaefer not being able to get dialed in. Other side of the coin, Dan Runte running smooth as silk all year long. This kid on every pass is becoming smoother and better. Fred Schaefer been around a long time, and these young kids are drawing him in. They're playing hardball with him. They're beating up on him, and I know he doesn't like it.
Dan Runte is presently second in the PENDA Point Series Championship behind his teammate Andy Brass. And Fred Schaefer's been playing catch-up so far this season. It looks like Runte by a wheel.
Yeah, but I tell you what, he was airing it out on the other end. Schaefer was pulling him back.
526 for Runte. Now remember, the fast loser, as we told you, will come back. There's Fred Schaefer's 531. That's a good run.
Yeah.
We can see Fred come back.
I think that'll get him back in. Watch Runte from the end zone, if you will, camera. It yaws on him here real quick. Watch this, see, it'll pitch and then yaw on him.
Well, he takes the victory. He'll come back for more competition. Let's go trackside and hear from Dan Runte.
Dan, it looked awful wild out there.
Yeah, it was, Army. The truck's hooking up off the line a little different than it has in the previous runs. It's been a little tougher driving track now. You got to drive back that second set of cars. Ford Power Wheels Bigfoot's doing a good job, and I do hear we just dogged the Dodge.
What that landing feels like inside the cockpit?
I can tell you exactly. The impact is equivalent to a 30-mile-an-hour head-on collision. They've run tests on that. And the impact each driver endures when they land is equivalent to a 30-mile-an-hour head-on collision. Now, these guys do this about 6 or 7 times a night. You've got to be an athlete to drive one of these trucks. I don't care what anybody says.
So 6 times a night would be a 180-mile-an-hour collision. No.
Well,
don't even figure it out.
First time I did it, I'd learned my lesson and let you drive the truck the next time.
The Power Wheels Bigfoot against the Ford Snakebite. Colt Cobra, there's a look at Snakebite, and there's a look at Dan Runte. Runte was the second fastest qualifier this evening.
What you're looking at is a toy manufacturer's dream come true. Every little boy in America likes Bigfoot, or they like Colt Cobra with the Snakebite. So
Snakebite was the third fast qualifier, so this is a real good matchup right here. Ford against Ford. It's Snakebite. Snakebite takes him in that favorable lane. Snakebite, Colt Cobra, a 5:16. I believe that was faster than what Andy Brass just turned in Bigfoot.
That was, and Power Wheels won a 31, but a 16 is quick.
And here is Andy Brass.
The Bigfoot Power Wheels team, Dan Runte, are comparing information. Man, they're just like two computers that every time they make a run, they spit out info that the other team can use. None of the other teams are doing that. They're all trying to do it privateer style, and it's just not going to work.
Ready for round 2 competition, but first let's take you back and show you some highlights from round 1. Dan Runte was the quick qualifier. Now, he got a bye run in round 1. He steps up to better his qualifying pass by a full 1/10 of a second. 5 point.
Gary, right now going into the second round, the only hope, the great red hope, if you will, for the Dodge team is Ray Perkowski, as Fred Schaefer was eliminated earlier in round 1 competition. So if you pull for Dodge, you're pulling against this guy. Dan Runte will be in the other lane from that Dodge in that Ford Power Wheels.
Now there's a look at Ray out of St. Louis. So both these trucks come out of the St. Louis area. The Bigfoot Power Wheels version. Fast qualifier here this afternoon with Dan Runte. He'll be in the lane closest to our camera shot right there. Ray Porkowski in the Dodge. So it's Dodge against Ford here in round 2.
Both trucks working a line. Dan Runte is dead on that tree. Truck, that's just almost a perfect run. Whoa, Porkowski's having some trouble.
Oh, yes, some major problems as he takes down the fence. You can see the damage under the truck. He lost some suspension there.
The rear end went away on that truck is what caused the problem. He did a yeoman's job of keeping it at least right side up. Something broke on that truck in the back. Let's see if we can see on the replay.
On the right side of your screen, watch Ray Porkowski.
Okay, he lays it down in no man's land when it,
right
there
there
it broke. Yeah, broke before the second jump. See the rear steer? Right now, he's just along for the ride. Hello, Vince.
That fence is taking a beating this weekend. New life for Barefoot. It will be Ford against Dodge and Ford against Chevy. Let's quickly go down to Army. Is there a problem with Barefoot? Well, you have to wonder. Fred gets a second chance. They have some trouble getting that Dodge fired. But here it is. There's a good look at the Barefoot Dodge. Fred Schaefer out of Pontoon Beach, Illinois.
The big question, can that big Dodge who just got fired be like the Phoenix and come back to win this thing?
Come back from the ashes of defeat. We'll find out. Dan Runte staging the Power Wheels Bigfoot. He is second in the PENDA point series right now behind his teammate Andy Brass.
Every win today has come out of the lane that Runte's in right now. Schaefer has got to go caution to the wind and go after this kid. It's not going to work here.
Nope, Runte takes this one again in that near lane. Runte takes the victory. He goes on to the championship round, a 5:11. And of course, Dan was the fast qualifier earlier today. Runte wins that one with the 5:11 ET.
And the Dodge boys are still looking for whatever they lost from last year. They just can't put their finger on it, Gary.
Well, that has to be so frustrating because Fred was so competitive last year. We really thought that this would be the year for Dodge.
And it's not in the engine or the drivetrain compartment. It's got to be suspension. It's just the chassis. You know, I don't know what to tell you. He just lost it.
Looking again, coming right at you from the crash cam. Here they are, and Runte goes right overhead. Duck! As the Ford knocks the Dodge from competition. So let's take this opportunity now to go down trackside as we take a look at Bigfoot starting to stage. Let's go trackside to Army Armstrong.
Dan, it was really weird when you went out there. A lot of changes going on. Did it bother you, the fact that Fred was coming out next to you?
Yeah, Army, you got to look at it because Fred's always tough no matter what happens. You know, he come back and he'll run a good time even if it is a bad lane. Fred's an old competitor. He's been at it a lot longer than I have with Ford Power Wheels Bigfoot with Firestone behind us. We just walked the dog.
That's what you call it.
By his wife, Pam, loads up, heads down the road.
There's Dan. These guys letting it all hang out. And speaking of putting it on kill, The big boys, the pros, the monsters are set up for their final challenge.
Runte and Brass sounds like a accounting firm on Wall Street. That's not the case today. They're two bad boys in the blue oval bunch Ford. Ford making a final for I don't know how many times this year. They are really, for such thing as a manufacturer dominating a sport, Ford has done it this year in this circuit, Gary.
Yeah, and it's somewhat of a surprise because last year at this time we really thought that Fred Schaefer would be a guy to reckon with in the Dodge.
And the only person to break the Ford stranglehold on it was a Chevrolet. So, you know, this sport is going and growing, and every week everybody in their heart thinks they can get these guys. So far, it's not been the case.
In the semis, remember, it was Dan Runte's 5.11 to Andy Brass's 5.13 that gave Runte lane choice, and to no one's surprise, he takes the near lane.
Exactly. Let's see what's going to happen. We've been talking all day long. It's time to race right now.
They were ever so close to semis, which would indicate this should be a real close one. Oh, look at Runte. Not really all that close.
Whoa, Runte came out of... Well, Andy Brass had to make some chassis adjustments. Runte goes at 06. Woo, quick time of the day, a 5.06 on the final. But Andy Brass knew he's going to have to take a shot in the dark, do some chassis changes. It just didn't work for him. He powered up in no man's land. Runte goes to the other end, Gary.
So Runte wins it, trying to close the gap on Andy Brass, who's leading now in the PENDA Points Championship. We take a look again, and Brass just could not get that truck to settle down in no man's land. And Dan Runte takes the victory, and he's standing by pit side with Army Armstrong.
Well, Dan, I tell you what, congratulations to you and the crew. Everybody really had to work for this one.
Thanks, Army. Yeah, they did. You know, the crew's been working real hard between the two trucks. We got to give them all the credit in the world. It's just not everything, you know, to come out here and be able to work with a bunch of guys like we work with, including the guys back at the shop, take care of us, build reliable trucks, along with Ford Motor Company. It's just great, Army. I love it.
Well, here's a treat for you. We'll give you a hedgehog view of victory. Coming right at you, up and over. Now let's go back trackside. He has closed in just a bit on Andy Brass.
Yeah, I just heard Runte look over to Brass and said, boy, the only thing better than this is Mama's cooking.
And Mama's Cooking's not that far away because these guys are both in the St. Louis, Missouri area, the birthplace of monster truck racing about 10 years ago. So our congratulations to Dan Runte, who does, in fact, close in just a bit in the points chase. Now only some 750 points behind Andy Brass in the Bigfoot. Oh, this has got to hurt. Oh, that'll get your attention. Our congratulations to Dan Runte. We'll see you next week. Now here's news and an exciting video release from Diamond P Sports. Here's a gal that needs a good break. We talked about the privateers earlier in the show. Here's Pam Botters in the boogie van. She pulls up against the very well-financed Power Wheels Bigfoot as Gary Celine looks on as they drive away from you.
The Bigfoot crew looking on because they know that this young lady can step up and run with anybody, anytime. They will not roll over for her.
5:12, best run so far of the night. Competition continues. Another Ford, that's the Bigfoot Power Wheels.
Now, Schaefer has knocked one Bigfoot out tonight, but he's still got this guy in front of him tonight and in a points chase. But what you're looking at right now is one of the guys I'm glad to see in this round of competition, finally given a chance to get some national exposure to the Hall Brother Racing Team. The national exposure goes to their sponsors.
Well, Mark Hall, of course, will be in the Executioner as we take a look at Dan Runte out of St. Louis, Missouri in the Power Wheels Bigfoot. He is second right now in the point standings. Mark Hall out of Champaign, Illinois in the Executioner. And perhaps you noticed earlier the Spies Hecker on the front fender. That is a German auto finish. It's a German paint product that we're seeing show up more and more as a sponsor in American motorsports.
Yeah, we're glad to see them working with the Hall brothers and helping them out. But right now, believe me, this Chevrolet team out of Champaign, Illinois has got their hands full of that big blue oval bunch Ford over there. They leave the line together. Bigfoot's out on him. Bigfoot
there was never a doubt. Never in question there. Dan Runte, there's Executioner's 5.54, but Runte ran a 5.11.
Boy, 5.11 is a number, believe me. We're going to be seeing more of that Executioner truck. They're working their way into the program. They qualified for every race all year, Gary.
So Runte finds himself in the semis. Another good look at Runte and the Power Wheels Bigfoot. We're coming back. Stay with us. Venom for extra money?
I don't know, but that guy has got blood in his eyes right now.
So now we have Chevrolet of Sampson, Dan Patrick, against Dan Runte's Ford. There's the Ford, the Power Wheels Bigfoot.
Runte, the new kid on the block, the Power Wheels Bigfoot, you say. You can buy a miniature of that in your local Kmart, Walmart, what have you. Sampson truck, Dan Patrick in the other lane's been around for many years. He's been here longer than the dirt they're running on, I believe, and he is instrumental in so many of the advances in the chassis of this truck, of this Ford. Finally, he gets to race one of his own designs.
I'll bet you Dan wins.
Oh, right, I just figured that out. Okay,
Didn't
what
take you too long,
brand?
did
What
it?
brand is going to win?
Ford.
I say. Okay.
Got you on that one.
Well, one's a Chevrolet, one's a Ford. You got to be pulling for that one.
All right, I'll take Dan Runte in the Ford.
Okay.
All right.
I'll take the rest of the field.
All right, they're staged because the winner here goes to the championship against Colt Cobra.
Dan Patrick is really working the lights, trying to psych that kid out on the far side. I don't believe he's going to do it. And I don't blame Patrick for doing it. Dan Runte knows he was going to do it. It's called mind games. Right now it goes from minds to horsepower. You take it, Gary.
And the horsepower belongs to the Ford. Runte takes it at a 5:16. 5:16 for Runte. And that is slower than Colt Cobra's time in his semifinal run. And there is Dan Patrick's 5:65.
Okay, let's get back to our wager now. Patrick finished second in that race, and your guy was next to last, even though two Fords are going into the final.
Well, yeah,
right?
if only two guys are running.
Oh, that's the way the bet went down. The folks at home will verify. I win.
Let me think about that for a moment. Well, anyway, we know that Dan Runte won. Let's go down and see what he has to say.
Dan, I tell you what, the Chevrolet guys are trying to come after you all and pull you in. He's running good. You got to him. How close was it down there?
It was real close, Army. I think the truck's really been working well. That time it kind of threw me for a loop between the first and second set of cars. Can't blame it on the truck. I really wasn't prepared for it. I don't know what to say as far as going into the finals here. It's going to be rough. Been running in the left lane all night. Been running good times, but that one I just kind of got a little squirrely in between the cars. We'll have to wait and see.
Okay, let's play honeymooners, though. Ralph and Alice, you're going to be in the Bigfoot truck, and Norton, you and Trixie over to the snake truck.
I don't think so. I don't think so. The Power Wheels Bigfoot will have Dan Runte and Colt Cobra. Right there's Colt will be in Snakebite. And Cramdens and Trixie and the rest of the
other
cast
people,
are
yeah.
not here.
Both the trucks run 460 cubic inch engines. Both of them are blower drive services. Supercharger on top. The trucks are very, very similar. It's going to get down to which driver can drive the truck. A lot of rivalry here, but then again, a lot of respect, as the Blue Oval Bunch is going to take another win on this PENDA Point Series, Gary. They have been dominating this year.
Well, remember, in the semifinal round, Colt Cobra was actually faster than Dan Runte, so he gets lane choice. He takes the lane nearest us.
And he is kind of flirting with disaster there because, well, not in the final, he's not, but there's a little down dip to the right side. But I guess he figures, hey, it's a final. Let's pull the trigger and go for this thing. Both drivers, there you go, Gary. What he did, he burnt the throttle left lane and spooked the driver in the far lane, made him back on the throttle. So he just flat out thought him on that one.
That's no drag racing stunt, is it not?
Yeah, exactly. You burp the throttle, you make the other guy leave, then you stop. Then he stops and you go. Dan Runte got foxed on that one.
Dan Runte, red lights, he disqualified. Look again, watch the truck left side.
Now watch him, he'll move, then the other guy will move, but he'll stop right there, and then he stops, boom.
Runte, red lights, and Colt Cobra takes the victory, Dan Runte.
Bigfoot Power Wheels went to the final, Gary, but a little bit of a burp. I don't mean a belch, I mean a horsepower burp. Cost you a little bit out there.
Yeah, it sure did, Army. You know, we went out there and red lighted. The truck was running excellent. Can't complain a bit about that. It was hooking up off the line. He threw us back in the lane we wanted to be in. He did a little burp. He got stopped. I did a burp, and I didn't. I guess that's what happens.
Told you earlier, the Barefoot boys are on a mission. They're kind of like the Blues Brothers today.
Ninth fastest qualifier, Don Van Loo against Dan Runte, the fourth fast qualifier, and Runte takes the victory in round one. And again, some trouble in the shutdown area for Don Van Loo.
Right lane, 4-foot drop-off. Remember, that's in the back of everybody's mind that runs that lane. It's down to homework at no man's land.
We take a look now at the pairing for the second round. The Power Wheels Bigfoot There's Fred Schaefer in barefoot. But before this run, let's go down trackside now as Army's had a chance to catch up with Andy Brass. Well, Dan Runte, a close second. He's chipping away at the lead held by Andy Brass, but it hasn't been easy, as Army Armstrong found out following Dan Runte's round 1 win.
Gary, I want you to notice something. It's about 24 inches from the top of the tire to the bottom of the fender here. But look how the fender is being rubbed by the tire. This tire is coming up and hitting so hard when they make contact with the ground, it's actually coming up and making contact with the body. These guys are literally nose diving them into the ground, or nose diving at that finish line, or diving head first at the finish line, whatever you want to call it. They're hitting a ton when they hit on the other end. Back to you, Gary.
That's a combination of 10,000 pounds of truck and a whole lot of shock travel.
Oh, you're exactly right. And so much of the technology for the shock absorbers come from the off-road, the Baja type racers, these long-arm shocks, these special chassis they're putting together to allow to get that travel in there. They know you've got to make the wheel travel to be on the ground, Gary.
Fred Schaefer in the lane nearest the camera. In the barefoot truck taking on Dan Runte, it is for Dan Runte. So Runte continues to close in on Andy Brass, and once again, Fred Schaefer really needed this victory to move up in the point standings.
Well, both Dodges did. You know, you had 2 Fords in this round. They put 2 Dodges out. That, whoa, you don't want to do that.
Well, take a look again at this rough landing for Fred Schaefer. He's over the first set of cars through no man's land. Now watch this rough landing for the Dodge.
Like I say, they're just literally airing them out, doing anything they can to get to the finish line.
And here's Dan Runte.
Dan, it seems like that the competitions keep getting closer and closer and closer.
It does, Army. We went out there and just ran the fastest time of the day with the 5:08 in the left lane. A lot of it today has got to do with lights. If you've got a good light, you're there. If you don't, you're not.
Just like drag racing, you're dealing with thousands of seconds. You can lose right at the first inch of the race.
That's exactly it. You know, that's what it's all boiling down to.
Well, as round 2 competition continues, as we take a look at another pairing between Dan Patrick in Sampson, the near lane. And there's a look at Gene Patterson, his crew chief here this afternoon.
Everybody knows Patterson used to work with the Bigfoot people. He's gone over to work with Patrick, the privateer, and they're doing awfully well for themselves right now. But you know, past don't count. This is the only thing that counts right now, because you see in the background the big flames of the Power Wheels Bigfoot. The Friendship just went on the shelf. They'll pick it up in about 200 feet down the road here.
Well, Dan Runte drives the Bigfoot Power Wheels entry, and he is closing in on Andy Brass in the PENDA Points Series. The last 3 or 4 weeks, he's really closed the margin down. A win here would actually, I think, give him the points lead.
But you got to get past this Chevrolet, and like I say, Dan Patrick and Patterson, they are going to go for your throat big time. Not going to work for them. That Ford's going into the final.
Yeah, it will be Dan Runte as he takes that win with a 5.00 ET. What a run for Dan Runte and the Bigfoot. And there's the 5.17 for Dan Patrick.
5 flat is awesome with a 10,000-pound truck, Gary. He just left on him, rolled the first hill. Now watch this. Plants the horsepower. He is off and flying.
And he flies right into the championship round here at Canfield with that run. And here, trackside's Dan Runte.
Each run, that Chevrolet is trying to pull you guys in. You got to give credit where credit's due. Gene and Dan are doing a good job. But you're the guy that's going into the next round.
That's right, Army. We come out, run a faster time this time than we ran last time. Ford Power Wheels Bigfoot's really hooking up. Got to thank BDS. We've been working a lot with them as far as horsepower, and we're getting it to the ground. It's working tough.
Definitely takes horsepower now. There's no grins and giggles. It's raw horsepower.
That's right.
Well, you know this guy wants you in the worst way. He's going to do anything he can to beat you, but that's racing. That's the caliber of racing we're having right now.
That's right. We're going out here. We have lane choice. Did a faster time last run than he did. That's going to make a difference, I think. We just got to go out here, cut a good light. Like I said earlier, that's making all the difference in the world, and see how it comes out.
Does the snake have an arm?
There's a confident driver right there is Colt Cobra and Dan Runte for the second straight outing. These two are meeting for the championship.
Okay, now you got to go back and realize that the last time they met, Runte kind of shot himself in the foot. Colt Cobra played a little mind game on him and got away with it. Now, I would be willing to bet a week's payment a week of your pay.
A week of my pay.
Of your pay.
It won't happen
That will
again.
not happen again. Dan Runte has that snake in his crosshairs. He will not make a mistake.
I would tend to agree this time he'll not be snookered like he was the last time. And if you didn't see our show last week, we can tell you that these same two staged. Colt jumped and got back, or burped it as he said, got back on the brake, and then when Runte burped it, he couldn't get it stopped and he red lighted.
Snake burping gold and Bigfoot whoa-woed.
All right, here you are, Dan Runte and Colt Cobra. Dan trying to take over the PENDA Point Series lead after 9 events of a 13-race series.
Good heads-up start. Both drivers. Dan Runte is there.
Dan Runte has him, and he has picked up the PENDA points lead with the points picked up here this afternoon. Colt Cobra 5:17, and Dan will go a 5:08. So Dan Runte takes over the PENDA Point Series lead. Once again, this was the 9th race of 13 events as he goes around Andy Brass. Colt Cobra's 3rd, Schaefer is 4th, and Patrick is now 5th. Army?
Gary, I tell you what, we're down here with the new national points leader being congratulated by his crew by 380 points, buddy. You're the guy they're all chasing now. Congratulations.
Thanks, Army. Like I said, the truck's been working really well. We got to thank the crew. Every round we went out here, it ran a little bit faster. The truck's working good. Firestone tires are hooking up. Everything's going well for us. We really can't complain about anything.
You know, it doesn't come easy, though. I mean, between every round, everybody is working like crazy. I mean, you're not backing into this thing. You're definitely having to earn your way.
No, Army, and there's something different here that we ain't seen in a while either, is the lanes are real similar here, so there's not a real big lane choice. I feel the left lane's a little better, but that's my preference, and that's got a lot to do with the way things are going here.
There are actually 230 points now separating first and second. Our congratulations to Dan Runte. We'll see you next week on Trucks and Tractor Power. Now here's news of an exciting video release from Diamond B Sports. Well, the hottest time so far turned in by Dan Runte, a blistering 498 to Gary Porter's 506.
Dan Runte definitely holding a high ground in this competition. He and that 460 cubic inch Ford Allen Root horsepower are showing away tonight.
And there is a look at Fred Schaefer strapped in the cockpit of the big Dodge Barefoot. And behind him, you see the Bigfoot power wheels of Dan Runte. He was simply on fire in round one, of 498.
He's got to be. He's set number 2 in the points. Andy Brass, he's the leader in the points. Andy Brass is coming after him. These guys have got to stay focused. Now, let's get back to a horsepower story. Schaefer in the near lane, all kind of horsepower with this Dodge Hemi engine. The suspension's not working on the car. Meanwhile, they go back. You hear the name Allen Root again, making the Ford horsepower, so it's turned into a muscle game, if you will. No matter what happens, like rock and roll, on the other end of this track, you got to twist and shout. Who takes it, Gary?
Well, the Ford takes it, a close one, though, with the Dodge. We've seen the technology come a long way in suspensions. Now they want to hook up the horsepower. So now, as you indicated, you alluded to how they're trying to get more horsepower each passing season. So a quick one, a good one for Dan Runte in the Power Wheels Bigfoot. He turns in a 497. That's quicker than round one. That would make Fred Schaefer the fast loser. Let's go down trackside and talk with Dan Runte.
Good number, 497. That's just fast.
We fell in the forest twice this time. The track's really looking good out there, Army. I don't know what else we can do to make it any faster. The truck, everything's working. The guys are just doing a tremendous job. I got to thank all them, and it's working. That's all I can say.
Off the final jump, the truck really, from my angle, looks like it's doing some weird stuff. That doesn't bother you at all?
It does. You know, that's something that you got to worry about a little later on down the track. The way the truck's coming down is the way we got the back shock set up. When we leave the second ramp, it is throwing the back of the truck. But like I said, that's the finish line. It's all over them.
Speaking of being all over, that concludes round two competition.
Speaking of equipment, who comes up next?
Another Ford. That is Snakebite Colt Cobra. Will be the next up. And he'll be taking on the other Bigfoot, the Power Wheels Bigfoot of Dan Runte. But first, Let's go down trackside. Seasons past, he has been the one they're all shooting for. The competition has closed up so much this season that now Andy Brass finds himself not on top of the standings, but second in the points. And right now we have a pair of Fords staging for the right to face Andy Brass for the championship here in Canfield. There's a look at his teammate, the Power Wheels Bigfoot, Dan Runte, presently leading the point standings, and he pulls up alongside Snakebite and Colt Cobra.
Neither one will pull up next to the other guy. Right now, I've been keeping an eye on this. These guys are playing mind games with each other because previously when they met, as the winner will have to go against that truck, previously when these two trucks met, Snakebite literally psyched out Dan Runte. So they're playing mind games, and the games is you go first. No, you go first. No, you go first. No, I went first last time. No, you go first. We saw this couple of races
back at Springfield, Missouri.
Yeah. Let's see who goes into the lights first. Meanwhile, where's Buster Couch when you need him? Because the starter, he's just standing looking down track. He needs to be pointing to the start line and getting these guys on the line. We're just about ready to go racing. Did the snake psych Runte out this time? We're going to find out real quick. It looks like now they're both going in pretty clean.
All right, the right to face Andy Brass. Oh, it's all Dan Runte. No contest. That was not even close. Hey, and look at the time, Army. 496 ET. That is the quickest run ever in this competition for Runte to a 558 for Colt.
It took a world record to put the snake bite on the trailer, but Runte now is the guy that moved to the high ground. Andy Brass, again, goes to the makeup, having to come from behind to beat Runte. He is just on a roll. When you're hot, you're hot.
So Runte has lane choice. He's happy. Let's go down trackside and talk to him, Army.
Well, Dan, we just received word. I understand your crew's already told you 496. That's the quickest ever in the sport to get past the Snake Man.
Yeah, that was I didn't really know that. No, I didn't, Army. I just found that out when you said that. That's impressive. Like I said, the truck's working. Ford's got us hooked to the ground. That's all I got to say about that.
They're going to be rubbing snake oil all over you tonight. That was an awesome run.
I got a feeling they might be chasing me around with a cooler. I don't know.
As hot as he is, oh man, he's been impressive. We're coming back. Stay with us. We're ready for an all Bigfoot final. There's Andy Brass in the Bigfoot Cruiser. He stages alongside the Power Wheels Bigfoot of Dan Runte. Runte has been so hot tonight, fastest run ever over a course this length. And earlier, Army had a chance to talk with both of our finalists.
It's going to be a tough one no matter how you look at it. We got lane choice again. That's going to help our side out a little bit. The truck's working well. I don't know what else to say.
Basically, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's about right. You know, it's dialed in and it's running hard, so we'll just see what happens.
Well, as you heard Dan Runte say, he has lane choice. That 496 turned in the last round, the quickest ever in this type of competition. That's pretty impressive for a 10,000-pound truck.
Oh, you're exactly right. And there's a couple of things that these trucks have in common. Same size engine. Both of them had the Just Say No to Drugs decal on the back, and I think both drivers believe in the no fear philosophy of life, because you are going to see a double throwdown run here. No love lost. Andy Brass got the experience, trying to use his experience to make up a little horsepower. He says he's down on him. Runte, they've been able to shake him in the past. Is he going to cool down, keep a cool head, and go to the other end as a winner? We're going to find out. Remember, Runte in the far lane is your national points leader. Andy Brass has been there before. He knows what it's going to take to pull this kid in. Can he do it?
Once again, Andy Brass second in the point standings to his teammate Dan Runte as they stage for the championship here in Canfield, Ohio. Runte has been in 8 of the last 10 finals.
Good lead by both.
Oh, it's all Dan Runte. Dan Runte by almost a truck length, which is still an impressive victory. There's a 5-second run. He has been so consistent all leading. This will help to pad his points lead.
Well, I tell you what, it definitely takes a team to do this thing. Congratulations, Herb. I know you guys have been working real hard. A 5 flat, that's your slowest of the night, but that's still like a rocket.
Yeah, it was, Army. That was a little bit slower. We lost a little bit off the line there. It just didn't pull as hard. I think the line was going away there at the end.
I tell you, you go to the bank on Monday morning, they don't care about that line. They just want to make sure it checks good. Hey, we got a surprise for you. Hey, it's not like the NFL, but I tell you, the thrill is just the same. Back to you, Gary.
Well, that's about the only thing that could Dan Runte on his championship. Now here's news of an exciting video release from Diamond B Sports. Now, also in round one, Paul Schaefer, near lane, respectable 5:15 ET. Spent a ton of money to get that low. However, it still wasn't good enough for the Ford. The Ford takes him at a 5:05. Dan Runte continues on.
Okay, Runte and these guys seem to be leapfrogging everybody. A 5:15 is an awesome run.
Well, as we get ready now for round two competition, we look under the vehicle, which is Paul Schaefer in the Monster Patrol. Now, unfortunately, Paul does not have lane choice in this event. He'll be in the right lane, the lane nearest the camera.
Yeah, but I don't think it's going to bother Paul. He and his crew have been working hard all year long trying to get dialed in. They're getting closer and closer. The horsepower is there. The horsepower for the Portage, Indiana auto salvage businessman is an Arius engine. No problem with horsepower. You just got to get the chassis squared away. Speaking of horsepower, the Power Wheels team, they've hooked up with Alan Root to make buku horsepower for those Ford engines. It's a supercharged version of the 460 cubic inch engine, Gary.
Well, Dan Runte certainly has the package going his way. The package meaning horsepower, the suspension works. He's tough to beat.
Plus, he's got a cool driver suit and a no-fear decal on his helmet.
Well, yeah, but he has to put the pedal down and have it all hooked up, though, when he goes racing. And so far, this has been his season.
Still got a cool driver suit.
Well, he does at that.
We're both kind of jealous of his driver suit. Chevrolet versus Ford. Let's see what's going to happen. Schaefer, near lane Chevrolet, nothing to lose. He's experimenting, trying to get the horsepower to the ground. We know the Ford can do it. They leave together. Gary, you take the call.
That's going to be Ford at the far side. Bigfoot Power Wheels of Dan Runte. So he will advance. Dan had a time of 5:04. There's the time for Runte in the Power Wheels Bigfoot. He will advance and maybe pad his points cushion just a bit of 5:17. Respectable run for Paul Schaefer.
There's your 10th I was talking about. The Ford's leapfrog. You catch them, they'll jump out of 10th on you. You catch them, they'll jump out again. Let's see what's going to happen. Runte at the finish line, a little bit lollygag, a landing there, but it works.
Lollygagging, there's a word for your vocabulary. Let's go back trackside, Army.
What's causing the truck to yaw like that on the other end? That last jump is throwing you completely sideways, it looks like to me.
Army, it's pretty much the way we got Trailmaster shocks valve. They're set, the truck's setting down in between the cars. That's what we're looking for. We're really not looking for the finish line. As long as the truck's landing and we can control it, that's after the fact. And that really doesn't make a big difference. Like I said, if the truck sits down in between the two sets of cars and hooks up the whole distance, that's what makes your times faster.
Yeah, but that's when you hold your breath down there when you're not quite has moved into the area, but not to dampen the enthusiasm, the spirits, or the competition. There's a look at the Bigfoot Power Wheels of Dan Runte. And let's go back trackside now and check in with Army Armstrong. What Gary Porter was alluding to earlier, he was doing it really on his own as a privateer, didn't have the big staff to go along at each event.
Well, what happens? These trucks allow 3 crew members. Well, all the Ford guys are jumping in and helping each other. The Dodge and Chevrolet guys, they're still playing privateers. They're kind of like Custer. They're sitting out there on the hill by themselves right now.
There's a look at Colt Cobra, and there's a look at Dan Runte, a pair of Fords, the Power Wheels Bigfoot and Snakebite.
You got to remember, earlier in the year, Colt Cobra snookered Runte. I don't think it'll happen again. When I say he snookered him, he psyched him out. Runte, kind of a high-strung individual, a little bit nervous. Colt Cobra got the best of him once. Let's see if he can do it again.
They are both staged. Watch the Christmas tree. There they go.
Both leave good. No man's land, I think. Runte, what do you say?
Oh, Runte ever so close. It is a 5:25 for Colt, and for Dan Runte, a 5:21. So actually they slow down just a bit. There's the time for Runte, but Runte takes the victory by inches.
Well, they slow down in time, but that was a good side-by-side race. Check this out. A little bit of slip on the start line for Colt Cobra. That cost him. Runte took advantage of it and immediately goes the other end.
And for the 9th time this season, Runte goes to the finals. He's with Army.
Well, Snakebite, you put him away. You know Andy Brass is coming after you like a fast-moving freight. If he gets past his round, you know, what's going to happen at the end of the day here?
Well, that's just it. If he does, it's 2 Fords in the final, and that's what we shoot for every time we come out to a race like this. Besides that, Army, I don't know. We'll have to see what he turns for a time. That last pass he made, we'll just have to see what comes out of it and what lane we get thrown in.
All right, remember
the tire that's on the front now is actually lighter and used to be on the back. Now that he's got more weight on the back, he seems to be pulling in the times. He doesn't seem to be pulling in the times. He's turning the fastest in the world. But looking for the handle. You hear that term all the time. In this case, He was just moving those tires back and forth and swapping them. Back to you, Gary.
Well, it certainly made a difference if, in fact, that is the reason why all these runs in the 4-second bracket this afternoon.
Well, you know, attention to detail, you've got, and all young racers know this, you have to pay attention to detail. Somebody had to take away those tires to know that they were lighter. That's
why you have a
detail.
crew chief.
Yeah.
Your team members, there's Andy Brass, the far lane. He has lane choice for this championship. His teammate, Dan Runte. Runte leads. Now, Andy Brass, really, with only 2 more events left in the PENDA Point Series, has to knock off Dan Runte.
Well, Andy Brass is the old pro. He knows what he has to do. Runte has played his hand. Now it's up to Brass to sneak in the back door and whack him in the head, and that's exactly what's going to try to happen there. I'm using terminologies to let you know that Andy Brass still believes he can win this world championship. It'll be the 4th world championship if he does win it.
So you're saying it's his experience that will make the difference in the final 3 events of the year.
I believe so. They're both good racers. They're both good
run
trucks.
for both of them, but Andy Brass takes the victory. Oh, wait till you hear these times. The first 4-second final, 4.99 for Dan Runte in a losing effort. And Andy Brass goes a 4.91, and there is his ET once again, the first time ever both the finalists run in the 4-second bracket.
In the interview earlier, Andy said he thought potentially he could go into the 4.8s. I thought that was a little bit of hoping, but I tell you, a 4.91, he just a blink away from a 4.80 run, the quickest side-by-side ever.
He did it. Dodge and the Chevrolet as Runte signs the autographs.
Both players in this game.
And look out, here's the ice for Dan Runte. That's going to wrap it up. We're going to head off to Indianapolis for Army. I'm Gary Lee. We'll see you next week. Hey, here's news and an exciting video release from Diamond P Sports. Points lead with a win in round 2, then start stockpiling the points because Runte's on the sideline after this run in round 1 against Pam Vodders. Now, Dan breaks something on the Power Wheels Bigfoot. Of course, the win goes to Vodders at 6:17. Look at the water still standing in the shutdown area. There's a look at the speeds will increase as the program continues. Also, earlier from round 1, Kirk Dabney, the far lane, winner the last race here at the fairgrounds, but he gets taken out by Power Wheels Bigfoot, Dan Runte.
There's your other half of the main story we're talking about. You're exactly right. The weather is going to be dry.
That man right there, standing with Bob Chandler, Dan Runte, will take on Andy Brass. Stay tuned. It's coming up next.
Wonder who goes in the near lane.
The big boys out here. And there is Dan Runte. He is chasing Andy Brass in the point standings. In fact, Brass right now with 630 points to his advantage. So obviously Runte has to knock him out here and hope that Brass doesn't come back as the fast loser.
And Runte is in the bad lane. Andy Brass is in the good lane. If I was a betting man, we'd be going with the blue truck on
Put
this
a
one.
shilling on the blue one right now, right?
Well, you know, unless, and that's not taking anything away from Runte. He knows what he's going to have to do, and he's got the means to do it. But Andy Brass is a tough old hombre right now, and you could see the world championship decided on this run, Gary.
Virtually identical trucks, identical equipment. However, a big difference right now, 2. Experience.
Exactly.
And the lane choice.
Exactly. And both of them in the lane closest to you and I.
And the big blue.
Truck is going to the utter end.
If Andy wins, he is the champion in his final season monster truck competition, and he is the champion.
Ladies and gentlemen, you just seen Andy Brass win his 4th world championship, and the race is not over yet.
Well, he has been so dominant here at the Indiana State Fairgrounds over the years. We talk about the weather and the rain and how he's been raining, but he's been on top of the hill. He's the king you want to knock off, and so far today it hasn't happened.
Well, like any kind of racetrack, you got tracks you have good feels for. I'm sure circle track guys feel the same way. He just feels comfortable at the Indiana Fairgrounds.
We take a look again, evenly matched right here over the second jump, and he pulls away for the victory. He's with Army. If interesting, these two guys will square off one more time. We're coming back.
Hillbillies like snakes.
Well, that's one bracket. Here's a historic bracket. These two guys have battled all season long for the championship. Andy Brass in Bigfoot, Dan Runte in Power Wheels. Andy Brass will retire after this race. His heir apparent is Runte. Well, talk about two guys that know Andy Brass well, Dan Patrick and Dan Runte. We talked to them earlier about his final race.
It's going to be kind of rough without him. He's moving on to Nass truck. I really think he'll do somebody a good job over there. I've been around Andy a lot. He knows his sport. He knows motorsports. And I just think he's an all-in-all good driver.
And he has just a tremendous fan following. And, of course, despite locking up a title, obviously he wants to put his teammate away right here and go on and win this particular event.
You're going to see what Andy Brass is like, so I guarantee you, he's not going to roll over. He's going to go through the doors of life kicking and screaming. He wants to go out a winner. And that's only natural. And Runte wants to beat him. You know, let me tell you, a lot of guys came to this race for one reason today. They knew it was going to be his last time in a truck, and everybody want to get the last piece of Andy Brass.
You know,
nobody's done it yet.
Very few drivers, very few racers can really say that they won their last event in whatever given series they were last in before they moved on.
You're exactly right. And, you know, it's history. The National Championship settled. Now it's for bragging rights, and it's going to be
Close.
Andy Brass.
Andy Brass, but it was close. Andy Brass slides to a stop. He knows he has the title in hand, and one more win here today, and he'll have this victory as well. So the Bigfoot Cruiser takes the measure of Dan Runte in the Power Wheels Bigfoot.
Runte, a 5:43 is a good time. He ran him hard. You know, nobody rolled over. That was real racing. Well, when you go to the Jamborees, you're going to see real racing all the time.
No matter what the track conditions may dictate, you've got a good show right here. That's how close it was. Andy Brass takes the victory. There is the margin of victory right there. As let's go down now trackside once again and visit with Andy Brass. And Andy is being congratulated there by his team. Well, once again, let's take a look now at the final PENDA Points Championship. The congratulations all. Spotlight was on Dan Runte in the Power Wheels Cruiser, and he clocked in at a world record 4.84. But that was not the only action.
Paul Schaefer knows he's going to have to be dead on the tree in the first round. He's a little bit late. Salvage operator out of northern Indiana, has the horsepower, has the driving experience. He's a past world champion in the sport of professional mud racing. Comes in the monster truck and is still involved in a learning curve, Gary.
Well, Dan Runte pulls alongside the Power Wheels Bigfoot Ford. Now, keep in mind, in qualifying, the fastest pass ever at 4.84. And this track, despite being so wet and muddy, seems to be getting faster as the competition continues.
Well, you got to realize these big cleats on these big tires, they'll go right through that mud. They'll take about 2 inches down in, and that's where they can still plant the horsepower. I say, I rest my case.
Yeah, it's all Dan Runte in the Bob Chandler Bigfoot Ford. And there's a 4.93, not that far off what he qualified at 4.
Dan, come out here real quick and watch this race with me. Bigfoot going against Rampage right now. Is there anything either driver ought to know?
It's, as far as the right lane going, it really came around, Army. At the beginning of this race, we thought it was going to be really a hooking condition to where it was going to throw the truck to one side or the other, and it seems to come around real good. The truck's going straight down that track as far as the right lane. I haven't been in the left lane. Eric, go out here and run a good race and just keep the truck straight. He shouldn't have any problem at all.
The Fred Schaefer Racing Team, there's one, the Rampage of Ken Deppy, and also a Chevrolet and a Ford. And the Ford, of course, is Bigfoot Power Wheels. Dan Runte.
You know, in the earlier interview,
Gary Porter, the Carolina Crusher. We'll be seeing him momentarily. Rick Rice there taking a look at the racing area. There's a look at Deppy in the near lane, Runte the far lane. The semifinals here in Lima. Well, that was the whole shot that won it for Dan Runte at 4.91. He's been very consistent throughout the competition.
Runte's doing exactly what he has to do. He took one of the dodges out of the picture today, Gary. Tough race. You knew he was coming after you. Had to cut a light out of a lane and nobody else liked it. Worked for you.
Yeah, we did, Army. You know, all the fast times been coming out of this. Ken ran that lane round before this one, and he moved over the right lane, not knowing what the right lane would do. He'd been running the left lane. It was tough for him. Power Wheels is working well. The crew's got me dialed in. We're talking a lot. Both lanes are coming around, and we're not afraid to go back and run the left lane again.
Well, coming.
Hey, he's having fun.
Back to the starting line, the finals. We're ready for Dan Runte in the Power Wheels Bigfoot, the big Ford of Bob and Marilyn Chandler, and the big Dodge Barefoot of Fred Schaefer.
I don't care what anybody says, this is a corporate war at this point. No love lost between the teams. We watch Schaefer as he works in the starting line. Same type starting you use in drag racing. You can win it or lose it by thousandths of a second. Let's just watch and see who's going to win this one today.
Bigfoot takes the victory here in Lima, Ohio, a 4.72. Look at that, fastest run ever. Communication. And there is his teammate, Dan Runte, in the Power Wheels Bigfoot. And Runte will stage against Brian Welsh in moving violation.
Welch, another one of the independents, would just like to get that break, pick up a sponsor to help him on the tour, because he doesn't mind racing these guys. He'd just like to get some new pieces to do it with, and he uses the GMC brand, not Chevrolet. It's a GMC truck for all you GMC fans out there.
Yeah, but once again, racing costs money. How fast do you want to go? You really need the sponsorship to go fast and be competitive.
Well, especially in this circuit, man, because this is so tough. You got to qualify. Only the top 12 trucks even make the show, so let's see what's going to happen when it goes green.
The horsepower down through that midsection that won it for Dan Runte.
One thing I want you to notice is Runte goes a 486. Is when he goes over, he's winging the throttle, burping the throttle.
A Ford, and there's a look at Dan Runte as he climbs out and walks over to Army.
Dan Runte, 486. You got this puppy flying, but you got that other Bigfoot truck in this next round. Now, what happens at a time like this? You're best of friends, I think.
Yeah, we are best friends, Army. They're both Fords. We can't lose as far as this one goes. Like I say, they're both hooking up. They're both running well. We're looking to move another points place today, so we're going to run as hard as we can run, and I'm sure he will, and may the best man win.
When you say we can't lose, the big question is who's going to win, you or him?
That's something that'll have to be determined out there at the light. It's a tough day. Both tracks are real close to the same. It just depends what happens out there. Cut a good light and run down there through there as fast as you can.
And he started out at a 472, went to 471, now a 464. The Ford Bigfoot trucks now preparing to stage for the right to battle Fred in the finals. But right now, it's going to be Fred Schaefer and Bear up to beat as we get ready for the matchup between the Big Blue Fords. Bigfoot 15 and the Power Wheels Bigfoot. Dan Runte the near lane, Eric Meager the far lane.
These guys got to be thinking about racing each other, but they were both suited up in their trucks and watched Fred Schaefer make that run. They know that he is constantly going faster. I wonder how that affects their psyche.
Well, they know that they have not been that fast so far today. And it's Dan Runte by a truck length over his teammate Eric Meager. There is a 4.85, good, but still not as fast as what we've seen from Barefoot.
Well, you're exactly right. A 4.85 anyplace else would be a great run. But again, notice how they got the chassis set. Fred Schaefer said it's an ideal condition out there. The air's good, the bite's good, and they're just flying.
And there's the margin of victory for Dan Runte. He's with Army.
Dan, you just came over checking something with Jim Kramer. Times are so important. Attention to detail is what it's all about, isn't it? Even when you got to run your own partner.
That's right. At Army, it all boils down to light. It's getting so quick that you got to cut a good light. Lane choice is making a difference out here today. We took the right lane, ran the right lane all day. Freddie's been running the right lane all day, and actually he got a faster time than I did that time, so we're looking at the left lane probably now. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. The Power Wheels Ford it's hooking up and leaving harder than it was all this weekend, and we're just going to have to wait and see what happens.
It's going to have to as we get ready for the finals. The feet, the driving shoes, the lower extremities of Fred Schaefer in Barefoot. Just earlier this afternoon, a 4.64, a world record for this event, and he pulls up the stage alongside the Power Wheels Bigfoot of Dan Runte.
This is like two old gunfighters going to go at each other. They're playing mind games on the starting line. Fred Schaefer rolls up, then the kid rolls up, Fred backs up. Eventually, they're both going to have to stage. From that point on, it'll be 5 seconds to find out who the best today is in this sport.
The way Fred's been running, less than 5 seconds. Rick Rice, the starter out of Elkhart, Indiana, will turn them loose as we crown a champion here in Lima, Ohio.
Ford on the far side, Dodge on the near side.
It looks like Schaefer, but was he out of bounds? A 5-second run for Dan Runte. Let's see what we have for Fred Schaefer. Will Fred be DQ'd? Let's watch again from the end zone camera. Watch the left lane.
There's an out of bounds on the left side. It should be indicated by an orange cone. You do not go outside that cone. He landed on top of it.
We can tell you that our official, George Carpenter, is down at the officials' tent watching a replay monitor to make the decision if Fred is to be DQ'd. Let's listen.
He's over the cone. He's over the cone.
Well, it doesn't look good for Fred Schaefer. In fact, we're being told now that he has been disqualified. Army is with both drivers.
We got a controversy finish. The Ford's going to take the win. He'll take the points out of here. The Dodge was first to the other line, but was disqualified because he jumped out of bounds. Now, the way that I understand the ruling in the past has always been your front two tires have to hit the object at the end, but I never knew there was an out of bounds at the finish line.
Army, I'm not sure about the out of bounds at the finish line either. They said he brought it up the meeting. I wasn't aware of it.
Okay, very good. Taking nothing away from you in the Ford camp. This guy's been rock and rolling all day long. You guys have been earning your keep on this thing. You're going back after these points, Chase. Were you aware of this situation, aware of the fact that the truck is out of shape on that last jump? You backpedal to try to keep it straight?
No, Army, I really didn't backpedal. The truck kind of picked up and jumped that way. We did steer it back right as it hit the ramp. It stayed in real good. It was a driving track. It was the first time I ran that lane all day. Like you said, Fred's been running tough, and it's kind of a tough break, but Ford's going to take the win here.
Well, Ford did take the win here today, but there might be a Dodge in the future, like a Dodge City. Like this shootout ain't over. Back to you, Gary.
5. That wraps it up here in Lima. For Army Armstrong, I'm Gary Lee. We'll see you next week on Trucks and Tractor Power. Now here's news of an exciting video release from Diamond P Sports. We'll have a bye run in round 2. Well, here's a matchup between Dan Runte and the Power Wheels against Paul Schaefer in the Monster Patrol.
Schaefer comes back into this round through the loser bracket, the quick loser bracket, and I really like that because it makes everybody really go hard through the end. But he's got the horsepower, he's got the timing and everything. He's just trying to get this chassis figured out on this Monster Patrol Chevrolet truck, Gary.
So it's Chevrolet against Ford. Now, once again, we watch that far lane when these guys land. We've documented the problem down there, and it could cause some more breakage as this competition continues.
Runte is literally wailing in the right lane. Meanwhile, Schaefer has all kind of problems in the left lane, mechanical problems, second shot in a row, but Runte is reading a riot act to these guys, Gary.
Well, obviously, some kind of mechanical problems with the Monster Patrols. We take a look at the return of the Crush Cam. I like this shot coming at you and going away.
Yeah, but I'm not going to hold it next week.
Let's go trackside and visit with Dan Runte.
Well, Dan Runte, the monster truck sport's always been notorious for being rough, but it looks like you guys are just getting beat up out there, especially in the shutdown area.
Yeah, it's rough down there, Army. You're hitting that second set of cars. It's throwing you every which way. I mean, they're dropping like flies. It's hard to say what that second ramp's going to do, and it's not in any particular lane either. It's really tough. It's going to take its toll on all of us before the day's over, I'm afraid.
Well, Bloomsburg has always been a challenge, but now...
I'm anxious to see now, since they've regroomed these tracks, they've requested the drivers. We're right at that 4-second barrier. Let's see if anybody's going to bump into the 4-second barrier. If that's the case, and the drivers were indeed right, they needed to change those ramps.
Well, there is Gary Porter in the cockpit of the Chevrolet, the Carolina Crusher. There is the Ford Power Wheels Bigfoot with Dan Runte.
Believe it or not, that monster truck has a set of whaled wheels on it.
Famous racing family out of the Kansas City, Missouri area.
Now they're in the monster truck.
And there is a look at the Carolina Crusher in the foot box in there in the cockpit.
Gary runs a transmission brake, somebody using drag race and get him off the line quick. He left good with the Ford.
Oh, look at that landing, Dan Runte.
Runte's coming across.
And a good reflex on the part of Gary Porter as he climbed on the binders. They popped the left rear off that rim. So the Power Wheels Bigfoot taking the victory, but watch the landing and watch how close they get in the shutdown area.
The rules say after the finish line, if one driver crosses over in the other driver's lane and contact is made, the driver that crossed over will be disqualified. Gary Porter did not make contact. Thus, the Ford's going into the next round, Gary.
Well, Gary Porter, of course, climbed on the binders to give Dan Runte some room to cross his nose. because some damage could have been incurred. Let's go back to the pits. Army?
Dan, they fixed the ramps. You go under 5 seconds, so it looks like that was a good move. But what happened here?
It come down, crossed up, Army. It just, later, this is the problem we were having last year. The Ford with BDS behind us and this new MSD ignition that we're checking out, we're getting a lot of power. The truck leaves the ramp, it's torqued up. When it gets torqued up in the air, it crosses up in the air. It's something you have to deal with when the truck comes down. And it just, we're making a lot of power and we're putting it to the ground, but as soon as that truck leaves the ramp, it's got to unload somewhere.
So the Bigfoot team will have a job ahead in changing the tire. As competitors, these guys probably get along better than the Bodine brothers in NASCAR racing.
Well, you mentioned both trucks were blue. I'm going to help you out. This is going to be a black and blue Ford final here.
Blue a Kleckner. That's what I was talking about.
And the winner is going to be featured in the Keystone Motor Racing News, a monthly publication that comes out of the Pennsylvania state. It carries all types of motorsports. We're glad to have them in the monster truck into this thing, and they're excited about covering this event. But right now, it's a blue oval bunch in all Ford finals. Meager takes his first win, Gary.
Well, remember, Dan Runte and crew had to change that tire on that Power Wheels Bigfoot. There is the new wheel, the rim, and the tire right there.
But also remember, Meager takes the win out of the quote-unquote bad lane. So it was a level playing field. That was just a good head-to-head race.
And there is the margin of victory right there. Eric Meager, as you said, he was the understudy.
Not the last.
And a big smile from your winner, Eric Meager. There's the congratulations from his teammate. And a good day for the Bigfoot organization. Top 5. And as the congratulations continue, talk about parity in the top 5 in points. 2 Dodges, 2 Fords, and a Chevrolet. Well, we hope you've enjoyed today's monster truck racing here from Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania. For Army Armstrong. Well, the next race pits the top 2 drivers in the PENDA points chase. Round 2 competition continues now with a look at Barefoot. Fred Schaefer, the Dodge out of Pontoon Beach, Illinois, and he will stage against another of the Bigfoot trucks.
This one being driven by the young gun Dan Runte. Goes by the name of Power Wheels. And Gary, this could be the pivotal race of the year because you get more than bragging rights if you win this one. You get more points than the other guy, and that's what the PENDA payout is based on.
Top 2 in points right now, going side by side only in round 2.
Hole shot by Runte.
Look at the wheel stand by Fred Schaefer. Runte knocks him out, though. Runte at 4.98, but did you see that wheel stand by Fred Schaefer?
The Crush Cam's going to give you a view of a wheel stand you've never seen before, Gary.
That was quite a run by Dan Runte and by Fred Schaefer. Army, you're down there with our Victor.
Dan, the truck looks like it's handling good. You're doing a good job driving a beautiful day here and everything. This could be the day you guys take off on this points thing.
Yeah, we're working on it real hard. Like you said, Power Wheels is really working good. I had a little problem there around before. The truck was just a little squirrely. We changed a couple things, the Trailmaster suspension, and come back and it hooked and went straight that time.
Okay, real quick, what do you change on a monster truck to make it handle? We hear other forms of racing talking about this, but what do you all change? Bars, length of bars, or what?
Mostly just once we get out here and find out what the race conditions are, it's just shock pressure. You're dealing mainly with shock pressure. It's, more in the back, less in the back, depending on how the truck's handling going down the track and where it's actually pushing down on the pads. Where is it bottoming out on the track?
Against Dodge, and there is a look at Eric Meager as he stages the Bigfoot number 15 out of St. Louis, Missouri. And there is his teammate and right now combatant, Dan Runte in the Power Wheels Bigfoot.
Gary, there's not been a lot of discussion today over these different lanes. Both lanes seem to be okay. Nobody's got a crying towel out there. Everybody's ready to go racing. Everybody's laying their cards on the table. And like you say, they're going out 2 by 2 right now. We're down to the final 4.
Well, we will have a Ford in the final, that is for sure. But will that Ford take on a Chevrolet or a Dodge? That will be the question.
Well, the question really is, will it be a black or a blue Ford in the final?
It will be a Bigfoot Ford. There you go.
Ooh, another good start out of this lane.
And Dan Runte takes the measure of his teammate with a 4.86. There's a look at Eric Meager. He'll go back to the trailer, and Dan Runte will continue on in competition. So a black Bigfoot will be in the finals.
Yeah, now the big question is, tell you what, with the new kid up there, you knew you were going to have to cut the tree on him, and that's exactly what you did.
That's right. Eric's new, but he's good at cutting trees. He was in mud racing before this. Gary's got both of these trucks running good. It's hard to put two Fords like that in the semifinals, but one of them's got to lose and one of them's got to win, so we just let it go with that.
Well, as we take a look at power, good-looking piece of equipment. Speaking of good-looking pieces of equipment, we're ready for the finals. There is a look at Gary Porter, the Chevrolet, the Carolina Crusher. And he pulls up alongside this guy right here. That's Dan Runte in the Power Wheels Bigfoot, the big Ford from St. Louis, Missouri.
You know, kind of the interesting story here is Runte, the good driver, the kid working for Bob Chandler, got some support financially from the corporate end of America. On the other side of the coin, the All-American dream, Gary Porter living his dream, picking up these sponsors, working out of his own pocketbook. Chevrolet, Ford, this is an All-American final if there ever was one. Plus, you're going to see a good, clean race. Neither driver will try to spook the other guy. They're going to go up there, they're going to square off, and they're going to go to the other end, Gary.
You think Fred Schaefer might be cheering for Gary Porter? I'd like to see that Chevy knock out that Ford for the points purpose.
You better believe that.
Their stage. Let's go racing for the championship here in Bloomsburg. Hole shot and the victory belonged to the Power Wheels Bigfoot. Dan Runte, he got the whole shot, and it was all Ford.
Dan Runte was possessed today. He was light on that tree. Believe me, he was 100%. Nothing against Porter.
Well, he got a poor start, though. He got a poor start.
Yeah, he burped the throttle, came out of the throttle, then the light went green. Okay, that's called a stutter or a stammer start. And once you lose your momentum, it's over.
And once again, it was all Ford and Dan Runte. He takes the victory. Let's go trackside, and here's our champion.
Dan, real quick, a lot of credit. Come here. Tell us who this guy is right here. A lot of credit goes to this man.
Gary Saline, like I said earlier today, he's been keeping us in it. He's got this motor running just unbelievable. The Ford's taking off like there's no tomorrow, and it's unbelievable. I can't say enough about Gary either, or the rest of the crew for that matter.
Well, they do a good job, but Gary, credit where credit's due. This guy's a good little driver, too, isn't he?
Yeah, a lot of credit. I mean, we can do the best we can here, but if the driver doesn't do his job, it's for naught, too. So he's doing an excellent job, and I give him a lot of credit on that last little burp there. You know, last year he red lighted on a deal like that, and this time he did a good job.
That all makes for the experience from time in the cockpit. So that will wrap it up here from Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania. Congratulations all around to Dan Runte. We hope you enjoyed today's monster truck racing.
3 wins in a row for the Bigfoot team as Eric Meager comes over to congratulate Dan.
For Army Armstrong, I'm Gary Lee. We'll see you next week on Trucks and Tractor Power. Now here's news of an exciting video release from Diamond P Sports. I think he needs a big socket set there, Army. Well, there's a look at Brian Welsh in moving violation as he will stage alongside Dan Runte in the Power Wheels Bigfoot.
You know, this brings out something I'm just going to tell you this. This is real racing. You got a corporate sponsor here and everything, and everybody's laying it on the line. There's no hokey pokey here. There's no hocus pocus, and there's no smoke and mirrors. This is real racing in America. Don't you doubt it for 1 minute. When they're running for PENDA points, it's a war.
Hammer down.
You better believe it. Don't ever doubt that.
Well, Welsh ran him strong, but Dan Runte takes the Power Wheels to victory at a 5.07. Well, it was a good effort by the privateer, Brian Welsh. He is undersized, though, in the engine compartment. He could use a few more horses right here to run that Bigfoot Power Wheels Ford. As the victory goes to Dan Runte, and so often we say, let's could have pit side and visit with Dan Runte.
Gary, I'm talking to a guy who's literally got blood in his eyes right now. You're pumped, you're psyched. You still believe you can win this thing?
Yeah, we do, Army. The truck's running actually too good almost for the track conditions. We're actually starting to detune. It's leaving hard off the line. We got grass in between the cars. It's just rough driving in between the cars. The truck wants to float to one side or the other. You're seeing it with everybody. It's not just a problem we're having. The Ford team's got it together, and I think we can pull this out, put 2 Fords in the final.
We shall see. Semi-final round between Dan Runte and Kirk Dabney. We talked earlier about this being Kirk Dabney's first race back since a bad wreck in Lima, and earlier Army talked to Kirk about the long road. And of course, Army, that underscores the great camaraderie that we find in this sport. They battle tooth and nail. in the competition, but back there in the pit area, they certainly help each other to keep all the trucks on the road.
You know, you're exactly right. We talk about the privateer and the corporate guys. That line's crossed over, too. Everybody helps everybody until the light goes green.
Dan Runte was a prophet. He said a pair of Fords in the finals. We will have a pair of Fords.
He may be a prophet, but the Cinderella story ended on the other side with Kurt Dabney.
Well, Kurt got a good hole shot right here, but his dream ended in no man's land. It was that Ford power that got Dan Runte to the victory.
Tough run. You knew that Dabney was going to be on that tree.
Kurt always cuts a good light. You know, he's been a tough competitor most of the year. This year he had a bad break in Lima. He's back and he's running hard with this. You can't ever cut him any slack. Ford Power Wheels pulled it through that time.
So both the Bob Chandlers in Springfield, Missouri, the finals pitting Eric Meager, the Bigfoot truck, against the Power Wheels Bigfoot of Dan Runte. Now Runte squared off against his teammate Andy Brass in the first race at Springfield last year. Now earlier, prior to the finals, Army talked to Runte.
Everybody had to scratch and claw to get to the final, but it's final, Bigfoot, Ford. It's been a tough night, hasn't it?
It has been a tough night. You know, got to give a lot of credit to Kenny and Herbie and John, all the guys taking care of us. Detuning was a big thing here at work for us. You know, we're just backing the big horsepower motors down. Just getting them to hook to the track and be able to walk in between the cars helped us out a whole bunch here.
The second time this season, these two guys have met in the finals. Now, keep in mind, if Runte can win this thing, he would overhaul Fred Schaefer in the PENDA Points Championship.
Yeah, and you keep one thing in mind. He would never give me that interview if he wasn't running his teammate in the other lane in the final. He just told us how they did it by detuning the horsepower, settling the trucks down between jumps, the no man's land area, and making it work there.
Well, I think this emphasizes teamwork in this Bigfoot organization because it's the driver doing the job down the run, but the crew that detunes the engine or settles that chassis down, adjusts the chassis, it will make the truck work. A problem right away for Eric Meager. Dan Runte takes the victory and the points lead in the PENDA Points Championship, a 5-0-2, but there was a problem right away in the far lane.
Yeah, but there's no walk in the park. He goes a 5-0-2. He had that sucker on kill.
We're being told now the problem in the far lane, he did not have four-wheel drive. Only the rear wheels were moving at that point, or pulling or pushing, if you will. So the victory goes to Dan Runte.
Well, Gary, we're with the man of the hour. I say the man of the hour, boy, it comes down to seconds at a time, doesn't it? But a little bit of problem on his side, not taking anything away from him. You just drove a good, clean, hard race.
That was a nice pass. It probably felt better than most passes we made all night here tonight. That other lane, like I said earlier, it's a tough lane to drive. I didn't have to go over there and do it. 2 Fords in the final and Power Wheels came out on top. We're real proud of it.
Well, that's 6 events. There is bound to be a party here tonight as Ford putting both the Bigfoot trucks in the finals. Our congratulations to Dan Runte, Eric Meager, his teammate, and of course Bob Chandler, the guy behind the Bigfoot organization. Hope you enjoyed today's monster truck racing here in Springfield, Missouri. That'll wrap it up. For Army Armstrong, I'm Gary Lee. We'll see you next week on Trucks and Tractor Power. Now, here's news of an exciting video release from Diamond P Sports. Earlier today, Dan Runte would turn in the best qualifying time, but look at the problems he had on his first qualifying pass. Almost gets, well, he does high-set it a bit right there. And first we'll take a look at the Sampson truck with Dan Patrick. And as he stages up against the big Ford of Dan Runte. There's Dan Patrick back from that back injury he suffered earlier this season. And there's a look at Dan Runte in the Power Wheels Bigfoot.
You know, that injury that he suffered as Runte's graphic comes up on the screen really had a lot of people scared because all these guys race hard and everything, but that truck, when it lands so hard. We've had helmets fall off. We've had drivers fall through safety restraints. Like you say, it's just like falling out of a 2-story window, but you do it over and over.
Well, Sampson with some trouble in the far lane just does get over the last set of cars. Dan Runte, a 5.38. So the success here in the work continuing is Runte, and Runte pulls up against this guy right here, Fred Schaefer in the Dodge Barefoot. So this will have a Dodge and a Ford pairing. And of course, Ford would love to win this thing because of the home state fans, but Dodge would love to win it because they're sponsoring this event. And Army talked to Fred about the... So let's see if that research and development can pay dividends here in Springfield.
I guarantee you, old Fast Freddy is not relaxed right now. He wants to beat this Ford. There's no love lost between these two guys. A lot of respect, but there's no love lost. One of them drives a Dodge, the other one drives a Ford, and there's the trump card. We keep going back to this guy. He's doing a good job. He's tricking the drivers. Is exactly what he's doing. He's making them drive these trucks. They can't intimidate the starter.
Looks like Fred Schaefer. Indeed, Fred Schaefer in the final. Look at that 5:07. That would give him, I do believe, lane choice for the championship run as he knocks out Dan Runte and the Power Wheels Bigfoot. Let's look at this again. A good run for both guys, but Fred Schaefer right in no man's land picks up the throttle and the horsepower, wins it. And let's go trackside view as well as we take a look at the young lady, Pam Botters. The Boogie Van has been a pleasant surprise this weekend here in Springfield. And there is a tall order for Pam in the form of the Power Wheels Bigfoot and Dan Runte.
You know, so many times we don't get to show all the first round competition as Dan Runte's graphic comes up on the screen. He's driving the Bigfoot Power Wheels. But this is a story here. Husband and wife team. She does the driving. And Gary Lee, you will agree with me, she can drive a monster truck as good as any guy in this world. All this team needs is a break. This might be what they're looking for.
A major sponsor with a lot of money for horsepower would certainly help. But Pam Botters, her husband Mike, come out of Hagerstown, Maryland, and they have a long haul across the country, but they're always here every weekend competing, and she's making improvement every weekend as well. Strong run about halfway down. They were side by side, but Runte pulls it out of 5:12 for Dan Runte and Power Wheels. And Pam Botter will have to go back and watch the rest of the competition from the trailer.
You could actually hear Runte burping the throttle on the final jump, going whop, 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 trying to keep the motor up in an RPM range. He is looking good, Gary.
It has been a challenge this weekend for the crew chiefs to keep those engines tuned and in some cases detuned because of the heat and the humidity.
Dan, we talked to Eric Meager a minute ago, and he says it's a team effort. He's not taking any credit at all, but you drivers are doing an awfully good job. They're giving you good bullets, but you're hitting the target.
Yeah, we are, Army. A lot of it's lane choice. Firestone tires are hooking up good. We got to give a lot of credit to Firestone out here because there isn't much left of this track. The crew's working with us real well, and he is right. It is a team effort. We're taking these Fords to the finals again.
And it will be Ford against Chevrolet against Ford in both pairings. Here is one Ford, Power Wheels. That's the Bigfoot Ford out of St. Louis, Missouri, Dan Runte. And there's a look at one of the Chevrolets, the Privateer, Gary Porter, and the Carolina Crusher.
Well, you know, wherever we go across the country, the Chevrolet fans really get behind Porter and support him. And again, there's the guy. He's kind of like the Blues Brothers. It's night and he's wearing sunglasses. He's 100 miles from home, got a full tank of gas. What are we going to do? We're going to race monster trucks.
Well, I think it's interesting. You saw that big Dodge banner, Dodge sponsoring this event this weekend, and the Dodge boys are on the truck watching the Chevy Bowtie Brigade and the big Fords.
Bowtie Brigade and the Blue Oval Bunch.
Ford's going to go on, and that bow tie will be headed for the trailer. Dan Runte, a 5:06 in the Power Wheel. So we have one Ford in the finals already. And once again, he's using that unusual driving style of burping the throttle several times as he goes over the second set of cars. But he wins it. He goes on to the finals, and he's with Army.
Dan, a 5:06. That's quick time of the night. It's got to be feeling good to you to run that fast.
Yeah, it is, Army. The truck's working better. It's cooling off a little bit out here. The motor's running better. Blower's actually starting to work a little harder. It's cooling down. Gary's leaning them back a little bit. We're getting more power out of them. We're just looking for lane choice now, hopefully putting both these Fords in the finals.
Bob Chandler. 20 years of monster truck racing. It's amazing, isn't it?
Third race in a row. These two have met now. So it's Eric Meager, Dan Runte. There's Runte in the Power Wheels. He'll be the near lane. The far lane will be Eric Meager. Meager said he's not been in this lane so far this evening, but as he indicated, both lanes are very, very similar.
I don't think it's going to bother him at all. Getting back to the fellow Bob Chandler, you know, keeps a low profile. We just kind of glanced the camera over. Think how many millions of people that he's entertained since he started this thing called monster truck racing. Heck of a guy, isn't he?
Well, of course, he never, ever envisioned a monster truck series as we have now. He first built one for a display purpose, an exhibition for his four-wheel drive service there outside St. Louis. All right, we're ready. Ford against Ford. Who are they going to give it to, Army?
The Ford.
Yeah, well, certainly 5.06. Dan Runte by what? A couple of inches, maybe. Well, of course, Dan won the last time these two guys raced at night, and he takes this victory by a mere inches, and he's now with Army.
Well, you're the winner. You're going to be signing autographs for a long, long time. All these people are tickled to death to see you take this win.
I think they are too, Army. It was tough out there, like I just told the crowd here. Eric went over there in the left lane and ran a real competitive run. You know, I can't say enough about how good these two Fords ran all day and how straight and how consistent. We just ended up the winners, and that's great.
Get your Sharpie out. There's a ton of people want your autograph. Congratulations.
Thanks, Army. Appreciate it.
What's that old comedy record? When you're hot, you're hot. I tell you what, these Ford drivers are hot right now. Bob Chandler's bunch on Missouri. For Army Armstrong, I'm Gary Lee. We'll see you next week on Trucks and Tractor Power. Now here's news of an exciting video release from Diamond P Sports.
Thanks, buddy. There's your band. He's right there. Are you sure? Okay. Jet fun? All right. Fords or Dodges?
The pendulum may have swung today because in the last qualifying effort for Runte, your current national points leader, he exploded a transmission and will not be able to make that first round call. This is the break that all the other teams have been looking for all year long. Power Wheels will not make the call for the first round. Well, Army. Later about this guy, David Morris. Been around the sport for quite a while. As a matter of fact, he's won national championships, but does not run on this circuit that often. He normally runs the indoor circuit where it takes a completely different chassis. He's going up against Dan Runte. Runte has got to be the odds-on favorite here because this is his kind of track.
And he turned the fast time from round one at 4.93. He chooses the near lane, puts David Morris in the far lane. Just like that, it's all Ford.
Oh, Morris is in trouble.
Morris had a rough landing as well. And that's the lane that we didn't talk about before. That's not the intimidation lane, as we call it. Turns out to be pretty intimidating this evening.
I was going to say, the drivers are looking down that left lane, and they don't like what they see. There's a lot of obstacles down there. There's only one little obstacle in the right lane. That's a hill. But David Morris...
Watch him get in trouble right here.
Boy, that hurt.
But again, he stays on the throttle, rights it, and through under the frame of Bigfoot. There is the look at the Intimidator we talked about earlier, the Power Wheels of Dan Runte, and there's the barefoot Dodge Hemi of Fred Schaefer, and Fred's over there in that far lane.
Lane he has not run in so far tonight. The left lane, first time. The way the truck always turns in a bad situation is towards the right. Both of these drivers better be on their toes. If Fred has a run that's not a good run, he hooks it right. Bingo, he's right into the side of this Power Wheels truck. And I don't care who you are, you make a book on the other guy, and both drivers know what the potential is here. We could have a disaster if that red truck turns right.
Joe Batista, the starter, out of Youngstown, Ohio. And it is Dan Runte. And once again, Fred does get off to his right a little bit, but not that far into Dan Runte's shutdown area as he takes the Power Wheels Ford to the final round here in Canfield. A look again.
Both trucks leave at the same time. A good, clean start, but right in the middle of the track, right here is where the Ford really gets to put the horsepower down, Gary.
And Army, you have caught up with our winner, Dan Runte.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Another 4-second run. Wherever you're doing, just keep doing it.
That's right, Army. The Power Wheels Bigfoot, and owe a lot to Herbie and Gary. Gary tuning the motor here tonight. He's got it dialed in on kill. It's just going. We're into 4 seconds. We're not changing it. You're right.
Well, we have one half of the final set. The Army Armstrong and Gary Lee back in Canfield, Ohio for the finals of the Dodge Monster Drags. It is Ford against Ford. That is the Power Wheels Bigfoot of Dan Runte in the right lane, the near lane, the far lane. Pam Botters in the Boogie Van Ford.
Yeah, it's Ford against Ford, but it's the girls against the guys. And I tell you what, if there's a crowd favorite, for the first time in a long time, it will not be a Bigfoot truck. A lot of people like him, but a lot of people are pulling for this young lady to take her first win ever. Worked so hard to get here. Let's see if she can do it.
Well, she's made steady progress over the last 2 seasons, and here she is in the finals.
That's taking nothing away from Dan Runte, because he's worked just as hard to get here, but he's been here before. They brought that man on board. He started making them horsepower. That's
There's
the
Mike
wallet.
Botters.
A lot of drama here.
It was a good run, but Mike thought he had it there for a moment. Mike Botters thought that Pam had won, but indeed Dan Runte takes the victory here in Canfield. She was ever so close.
Both drivers cut a good light, but Pam, after the first jump, does a little bit of a wheelie right about here. See, now Bigfoot puts all 4 of them big old meat to the ground.
Well, our winner is Dan Runte, and he's with Army.
Dan just asked me, is it over? It has been one of those nights, hasn't it? But congratulations to you and the crew. You did it, you stayed cool, you did what you had to do. But they were definitely coming after you.
Yeah, they were. That's what I've been saying all night. You have to be consistent. Power Wheels Ford, Firestone helped us. I mean, tires were hooking up excellent. I can't say enough about those. And the crew, like you said, Army, they're all great people. They put it all together as well as myself.
We'll take a look now at the Dan Runte on the starting line. He's our points leader, winner of the last race here at Canfield. Now, Runte took out Dave Morris in the equalizer in round 1. But first, let's send it down to Army with Ken Deppy. So no major damage, but he'll be out of competition today as we take a look at Paul Schaefer and the Monster Patrol out of Portage, Indiana, northern Indiana in the Hoosier State. And, of course, fairly newcomer to the sport. He'll be taking on Dan Runte out of St. Louis, Missouri, the Bigfoot organization.
Now, Schaefer is a new driver in this sport, but he holds world records in mud racing, so he's used to the horsepower. What we got to get him used to is this 10,000-pound truck. He runs a large salvage operation, like you say, up in northern Indiana. Meanwhile, on the other side of the slate, the Power Wheels you see at the Kmart and Walmart stores, they're sponsored Runte, who is your current national points leader, so this will be a good race.
Indeed, it was a good race. Runte by about a half truck length at a 5:26 ET for Dan Runte.
Well, another round, you're still in this thing. It keeps getting tougher and tougher and tougher, though, doesn't it?
It is tough, Army. The track's hooking up different every time we go out there. The right lane's actually digging some big holes. Lane choice has got a lot to do with it. I mean, I specifically haven't run the right lane, or the left lane, excuse me, but we might get our chance at it this time. Carolina Crusher, and we're going to go out there and put the Ford on top again.
Well, it sounds like Gary Porter may like this track better than Dan. Roval track, a road course, or here in monster truck racing. There's a look at a past champion, Gary Porter, the independent, the Carolina Crusher, the Chevrolet. Now, Gary will meet Dan Runte for the right to take on Overkill in the championship here at Canfield. There's a look at Gary Porter inside the cockpit, and there's a look at the Power Wheels Bigfoot of Dan Runte.
640 cubic inches, blower drive service, supercharged Ford engine in that lane. 500 plus cubic inches in the Chevrolet, but they think that the horsepower ranges are equal. Runte, national points leader. Porter, the privateer, always in the top 5, always in the thick of things. He can mess up anybody's day anytime.
And it looks like the big Ford just messed up the day for Dan Runte as something broke in the Ford. Gary Porter, a 5:12, takes the victory, and he will go to the championship round against the Overkill truck and Kurt Dabney. Look again, Army. Right here, something happens to the Ford.
It laid down on him in no man's land, but Porter, you take the win.
So once again, Porter does take the victory, and he's with Army. And Runte taking on Alan Pizzo. Runte would lay down the low ET in round 1 competition with this pass. For more competition, Dan had the low ET of round 1 of 498. He has lane choice as he goes up against Dan Patrick in the Samson.
It's amazing how interesting and how intricate the suspensions are on these trucks. They may look like big old sumo wrestlers, but we've told you before, it gets down to almost being a ballet as far as technology is involved.
sumo wrestlers and a ballet. Only you could put both those in the same sentence. All right, we're just about staged here in round 2.
Sampson and Power Wheels, Chevrolet and Ford. Veteran against the new kid.
Sampson runs him tough, but Runte took him a 5-0-0, 5 seconds even. He was the quick pass of the last round. And there's a look at Dan Patrick as he will go back to the hauler, and the Power Wheels Bigfoot, Dan Runte, leading the point standings, will advance.
This is a classic race. Both trucks lead good. Both of them settle down the middle. It just turned into horsepower.
So once again, it's Dan Runte, and here he is with Army.
Sampson with the Chevrolet horsepower, not able to handle you tonight.
Yeah, Army, it's pretty tough out there. The lanes are getting rough. We're staying in the right lane. We've been in the right lane all night. But like I say, it might be a deal where we switch back and go to the left lane next round. We just got to go round by round right now. The Fords are on top.
From Canfield, Ohio, the semifinals are coming up. Stay with us. In the finals, there is a look at the Power Wheels Bigfoot, the bumper anyway, and the right front tire wheel assembly of Dan Runte's Ford. In the near lane, the far lane, the overkill Ford of Kirk Dabney.
Both drivers, Gary Porter and Dan Runte, and Runte hasn't made it to the final yet. He's got to get past this overkill kid, but both of them have said the right lane's the place to be. Both of them cannot run the right lane in the final. The way they'll determine who gets lane choice is who has the quickest round in this round of competition. So this is just like qualifying all over again, except there's somebody in the lane next to you, Gary.
Late stage by overkill and by Runte.
Engines run alcohol. They won't get hot.
The competition will. Ford against Ford. And it's going to be Dan Runte.
Who's going to get the right lane will be the question. 495. The question's been answered. The big Ford's going to be in the right. Chevrolet will be in the left lane for the finals, Gary.
So Dan Runte in the Ford will go up against Gary Porter, the Chevrolet, and here is the replay. Well, it's a good, smooth run for Runte. He left strong and had him covered all the way through the run, and here's Dan with Army.
I tell you what, he may have been in a Ford, but you guys look like you just were at an old-time street fight out there.
Yeah, there's one thing for sure. A Ford couldn't have lost that one. Somebody had to go down there. We ended up on top. Crew's doing a great job again tonight. I got to thank them a whole bunch. Put us back in the fours that time. That's where we wanted to be. We're going on to the finals, see what happens.
Well, as we prepare the trucks for the finals, hey, a highlight of these shows.
If you look at it on paper, Gary Porter's going to make a perfect run, and Runte's going to make a mistake. On paper, Runte, believe it or not, is a quarter of a second quicker in that Ford than the Chevrolet right now.
Well, yeah, Dan Runte with lane selection of 495 the last round to Porter's 514 from the semi-round. So he has lane choice. He'll take that near lane.
Plus, what that does, it puts him in a lane he's familiar with a quarter-second time edge, and Gary's in an unfamiliar lane. Gary's going to have to push a tree or do something here. Right now, he's psyching himself up. Did you see that? He's pumped.
Well, now he has to stage the Carolina Crusher. He won the last outing here in Canfield. There you see the grill and the front bumper of the Power Wheels Bigfoot with Dan Runte.
Now, both drivers are working the lights. That means they're taking their time going in, but the longer the motor runs on alcohol, the more heat it's going to build. Ford set. Chevrolet's in. I think we're ready to go racing.
And Runte, by just about the same margin he had from the last round, wins it a 5:01. A 5:01, and Porter would clock at 5:26. So indeed, the margin remained the same from their last pass. Watch again.
Quarter of the paper showed up. The quarter of a second stayed the same all the way through. Porter ran a good race. He just didn't have the lane to run in.
So Dan Runte, your points leader, takes the victory. He's with Army.
Tell you what, Dan, I don't know what to tell you. It seems just to be working for you, but these guys are pulling you all in ever so slow every week, and you knew you had a battle on your hands when you went up against Porter.
Yeah, he was there. You know, every time you go up there, like I said before, Gary's going to cut a good light. He's going to run you as hard as he could run you. The Ford Power Wheels was just hooking up. Great team effort, and we were there again. Ford is number one.
And indeed, he is number one in the point standings. This victory certainly will enhance his points lead right now as he gets some congratulations to walk over to assign some trucks and tractor power. Now here's news and an exciting video release from Diamond P Sports. How many times have we seen this? Dan Runte once again laying down the low ET of round one. He knocked out Mark Hall in the Executioner. There's that 497. He'll have lane choice for been a battler for a number of years. And there's a look at the brain trust behind Pam Botters. Pete Bronzine on the left, Mike Botters on the right. As they walk in behind the boogie van, she starts the stage against Dan Runte and the Power Wheels Bigfoot. Runte again from the St. Louis area. Pam Botters, a young lady from Hagerstown, Maryland. Boy, has she really stepped up her game this season.
Well, once they brought an engine technician on board with them, and a lot of these engine technicians we're talking about, when they're not working with monster trucks, they're working with funny cars on the NHRA drag racing circuit, so the knowledge is there. It's just, you know, a horsepower in an engine is still there. It's just how you get it to go to the ground, whether it be a 1,320 feet drag racing or a 10,000-pound monster truck. You've got to get the horsepower to work for you.
Well, you saw Pete and Mike talking there behind the starter as Pam drove in to stage the bookie van. So it's Ford against Ford, van against pickup. Still trying to stage the two Fords. Something happened to Pam that time because it was all Dan Runte. Pam had a problem. 494 for the Power Wheels.
Runte was smooth on that start line.
We'll give you a view here so you can watch the suspension work. 10,000 pounds working that suspension as Runte is coming right at you. Oh, what a great shot. You can see the air there, the rough landing, the suspension works. So let's talk to Dan Runte.
Well, Dan, you set the field for the Final Four, that being 2 Fords, 1 Dodge, and 1 Chevrolet. What do you feel like your chances are?
Well, the Fords are outnumbering the other 2 right now, so that should be a pretty good chance right there. We've been running real consistent all day. The truck's staying down in the 4s or real close to the 4s. The right lane's feeling really comfortable. Gary's been doing some real tuning on the motor. We lost a little bit of air today, and that's been harder on him and harder on us, but I think we'll come out of this all right.
We shall find out. The semifinals are coming up. In the finals. And so now we have Dan Runte, the Power Wheels Bigfoot, in the Ford against the Carolina Crusher Chevrolet of Gary Porter. There is the grill of Gary Porter's Carolina Crusher. So the near lane, the fast lane right now belongs to Dan Runte.
Every now and then, Porter talk about Neil Chance and the torque converters. Well, the torque converter is an 8-inch piece of metal that takes all the horsepower, 1,500 horsepower, and makes, actually, the horsepower goes through the torque converter to make these big 10,000-pound trucks move. The Bigfoot team, they rely on the TCI torque converter, so there's different brands of torque converters to get the horsepower to the ground, just like there's different brands of vehicles.
Just 2 races ago, remember, Porter knocked out Runte in the semis. Let's watch this time. Oh, not this time. Runte looked like, what, a couple of feet? A 496. So Fred Schaefer will have lane choice with his 491. So it's a Dodge against Ford in the finals as the Chevrolet Carolina Crusher heads back to the hauler. And one more look.
The replay comes on the screen. I'll bet a week of your paycheck that Fred Schaefer's going to go in his right lane. It's the quickest.
All right, let's talk to Dan Runte.
While we're waiting for Dan Runte to come out of the vehicle to do an interview, winter interview for him and setting him up for the finals, we look immediately underneath his transfer case and notice, yes, they are making a gear change. Real quick, I'm going to grab you. Gear change looks like it's in the work.
Yeah, we're going to have to, Army, get some tire speed. We're going to get moved over that left lane. It's a little rougher lane. It's been spinning a lot more on the line. We're figuring we can gear up, take away from the motor a little bit, and slow this tire spin down and see what happens in the finals.
Incredible how much strategy, mechanical know-how can go into a different lane. As we take a look at that replay again, the near lane victory, but in the final round, he will be in the far lane, so they are making the adjustments right now on that truck. And in the meantime, let's go talk to Gary Porter. We're going to have some fun now. This final shootout should be a dandy.
Well, you can call it fun if you want, but what you're going to be looking at is a war between 2 major corporations. Chrysler Corporation in the red lane, in the blue lane, the Ford boys, the Blue Oval bunch. So, yeah, this is about as serious a race as you're going to get right now.
Couple of veterans, no strangers to the final round of competition. Earlier, we talked to Dan Runte about this matchup.
Gary, we're standing with Dan Runte in a place he hasn't been very often. That's the left lane at Canfield. What are you looking for?
Yeah, we're kind of trying to see where we can leave from. A couple guys have been leaving from up higher on this track. Other guys are just falling back in the same groove. We're trying to figure out between Eric and I where we're going to get the better traction and get the hole shot out of this lane.
Okay, tell me, where's it going to be?
We're going to fall back in the hole.
All right, let's see if that strategy will work as we are staging for the finals here in Canfield. The Power Wheels Bigfoot in the far lane, the Ford. And the right lane, the near lane will be Fred Schaefer.
Well, he's talking about dropping back in the hole. I think that's a good move because it gives him an opportunity to get the horsepower actually planted. He doesn't have to worry about falling off. He can just go straight. If he can leave, get a good light, he's got a chance to pull this Dodge.
Well, will the Dodge take the Dodge money? Will the Ford take the Dodge money here in Canfield?
We can feel the drama.
A half truck it was indeed. Dan Runte, the Power Wheels Ford at 5.02. Fred Schaefer has been faster this afternoon. He couldn't hook it up that time as Dan Runte shot him down into Ford.
First win out of the lane. First win out of the left lane. He did his homework, and he got an A today.
So Dan Runte, by that margin right there, takes the win here in Canfield.
Smoke 'em.
Well, I thought we did walk into a slapping contest here with the team congratulating you and everything. Let's get over here where we can, the crowd and everybody's looking for you. We need to kind of get them involved in this thing, too. We're going to let you get the autographs, but real quick, tough race was Fred, as usual.
It was a tough race. Power Wheels Ford came out on top. We owe a lot to BDS, MSD, Firestone. I mean, they're all great people, let alone the crew here and the crew back at the shop we keep working with. I mean, 3 out of 4 ain't bad, and Ford can't complain about that.
Congratulations to you. Great job.
Thanks, Army.
In the PENDA point standings, now Gary Porter, not Gary Lee. We'll see you next week on Trucks and Tractor Power. Now here's news and exciting video release from Diamond B Sports. Army Armstrong, and there's a look at Dan Runte in the Power Wheels. He goes up against Ken Deppy and Rampage, a pair of factory-back trucks, a Dodge and a Ford.
Well, and you got psychological advantage here. Deppy has nothing to lose. Put it on kill, bump this Ford off. The Ford's already won the World Championship, the PENDA Point Championship, so, you know, he's only got one way to go. And he knows everybody's coming after him, so it's back to an old-time slapping contest between 2 good drivers and 2 good pieces of equipment. And this is what the sport of monster truck racing comes to.
And once again, your world champion in the PENDA Point Series takes the measure of the Dodge, so the Ford wins. Runte a 5.04. Dan Runte.
Dan Runte, you're doing an awfully good job of driving this truck, but it is taking some spooky bounces on the finish line in.
Yeah, Army, the Ford Power Wheels Bigfoot, it's hooking up hard. It's running down through there. It's going real good over the first set. We're hitting the second set. The truck's twisting in the air, and it's throwing us around down there. We got to figure out a different strategy or maybe even a lane change. We'll just have to see how it ends up.
Now, following round 2, Dan Runte was concerned about keeping that Power Wheels Bigfoot truck straight. Now, earlier, Army took a look at what it takes to keep a monster running straight.
Gary, Dan was talking about the truck twisting in the air. That's called reverse torque. And what they're doing after every run, they're coming back and checking these bars. These are called 4-link bars. They got a lower bar and a top bar. 2 going to the rear, 2 going to the front. But they're checking those bars to make sure they're not bent. If that bar bends, it takes the truck out of square. And that's where they could be getting this problem they've got in laying in the truck. Back to you, Gary.
Well, the technology in suspensions has really enabled these guys to go so fast over these cars.
It's the same basic technology used in drag racing with the 4-link suspension on the rear.
Eric Meager looks on as his teammate Dan Runte stages the Power Wheels Bigfoot. There's the nose of the barefoot Dodge of Fred Schaefer.
Schaefer awfully slow going into the starting field. Okay, he's coming in now. Both drivers up.
Oh, did you see that surge?
Whoa.
Did you see the surge when he came
landed,
off that first jump.
They're setting their chassis different. The Dodges are dropping their rear wheels down, making contact quicker than the Fords, and that's putting them on the other end. You think they're not happy?
494. Now watch as the rear settles down after this first jump, and watch the surge right here.
Yeah.
Look at him kick out, and that's where he wins it. Fred Schaefer takes the victory, and right now he has to be ecstatic. Let's go down trackside. He's with Army. Now, with the disqualification of Gary Porter, we go back to Dan Runte. He was in the semi, so he is brought forth for side-by-side competition with Pam Vodder. So now we have a pair of Fords, a pickup and a van.
So the season of disappointment continues for Fred Schaefer and his team as the final is set. The crew chief, George, the Boom Boom Kid, they call him, Gary, has done his job. Now it's up to his driver.
Well, Runte has a chance here. He's already won the seasonal championship, and he'd like to win here at the Indiana State Fairgrounds.
But if there's a crowd favorite, it's Pam. I'll be real honest with you here. She's racing him hard, Gary. No.
But the guy wins it. Dan Runte takes the victory over Pam Vodder's. His 8th of the year at a 5.03. He has won over half the races this year.
Well, Pam Vodder's made an honest man out of him because he had to go a 5.03 to put her out of this thing, Gary. Nothing to be ashamed of at all. She ran him hard.
Yeah, and here is the margin of victory for the Ford pickup truck. And Dan Runte is climbing out of the Power Wheels truck to talk to Army.
But Dan, the Boy Scout motto is be prepared. You guys were, you had the opportunity, you took advantage of it. Congratulations.
Thanks. I owe it all to a great crew. You know, we were half undressed over here, throwing RJS fire equipment everywhere, and Eric got up in there and actually helped me get dressed. You know, like I said, I got a great crew here, great motor guy. Can't say enough about it. The guys even back in the shop, you know, it's nice to take a win like this. It's kind of hard for other parties involved, but we'll take it.
There's the number one. Pam Vodder's there to congratulate Dan Runte, and we've had next week on Trucks and Tractor Power. Now here's news and exciting. But hey, the sun's been shining on this Ford truck and this driver, Dan Runte, all season long. In our last outing, he was knocked out in the semis, but because of a breakage on Fred Schaefer's Dodge, Runte got back in and won. 5:15 on the bye run. There's a look at Fred Schaefer in the Barefoot Dodge as we are ready for our next pairing. And he'll be going up against Dan Runte in the Power Wheels Bigfoot. Dodge against Ford, but before that, let's go trackside and talk to Gary Porter. Comments there from Gary Porter as we're ready now for a Ford Dodge shootout. The Power Wheels Bigfoot once again. Dan Runte has already clinched the PENDA Points Championship out of St. Louis, Missouri, the final event of this series. And he goes up against Fred Schaefer out of Pontoon Beach, Illinois.
This could possibly be the last time these two trucks meet this year. This could be the most important run for Fred Schaefer, because if nothing else, if he beats Runte now, he can say, I got you last.
Oh, Schaefer took him. I think Schaefer took him. The crew certainly thinks so. And Schaefer a 482. Now, Runte had been the fast ET of round one at 488. But that time, man, Fred shot him down, a 482.
Fred came to the line with blood in his eyes. Believe me, he wanted this win.
And look at the margin of victory. Right there it is. The Dodge by...
Here, but he's going up against the defending PENDA Points champion and Dan Runte. He and the Bigfoot crew have been very, very busy this afternoon. No motor problems, just a new starter needed on the Bigfoot Ford. He and his crew, hard-hearted work. They got him ready, and he's back on the line.
Meanwhile, sitting in the other lane, the guy, like the little train, he thinks he can beat the big guys. Far lane, Ford, Power, Big Blue, Bigfoot. Hall waits in the near lane. There's Sage.
Big Blue. Dan Runte in the Ford does it again. A 4.80. Very good run for Dan Runte.
Dan Runte leveling up, showing that he can do
with Dan Runte.
Dan, a 480 on a hard run. Those Hall brothers are coming around on you.
They're coming around hard. You know, they're running the clutch. There's a lot of people going to clutches. We're still running a good old Ford C6. We owe a lot to that. Ford and the Firestone tires are working well here today. I can't say enough about that. We're just taking one run at a time. We're getting a little rattled here. We've had a couple little problems, and we'll get them straightened out and be in the finals.
She made a couple of finals last year in that in that van, Army.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, her husband, who's the crew chief on this vehicle, they put a real good motor program together. They know they can step up and run with anybody. They got just as much horsepower as anybody that get in the lane next to them, Dave.
And, of course, the Ford's debuting the new F-150 Bonnie style. As you can see Dan Runte coming to the line. Eric Meager drove this truck to the opening win at the RCA Dome, but now Dan Runte takes over as Rick Rice gets set to turn these guys loose.
Drilled him on the tree, cut the tree down on Runte, but Runte's horsepower pulls him back on the other end with a 495 win. It was win or lose in no man's land. Runte got it down on the ground first. The replay will show you she moves quicker. Then when they go over the first jump, right here is where Runte can really put some horsepower down. Now he dials the horsepower in, pulls the trigger over the second jump, and literally leaps to the end. So Runte will advance in that F-150. Dave's with him right now.
The defending champion steps out of the Bigfoot Ford. Dan Runte, you made the finals, but another slow start. You had to get her off in no man's land.
Yeah, it did. You know, it's a rough track to drive. It's getting rougher. The ruts are getting bigger. You know, it's just a hard track to start to play now, just because it is getting looser. The Ford Bigfoot's doing fine. We put both our trucks in the final, so we're real happy.
Bigfoot is the most dominant truck.
Nothing but Fords. Eric Meager going up against Dan Runte and Army. These trucks are very even.
Yeah, you can call this the battle of the Blue Oval Bunch. They both come out of the Bob Chandler operation. Even it's kind of like the same thing the NASCAR teams have when you have a two-car team. They have a two-truck team. Everybody's separate.
And as even as we are, maybe we'll get a chance to see who's the better driver. But how about lane conditions? Meager has the choice. He's picked the fast one. It's the left lane. He's tossed Runte into the right one.
Yeah, but that may not be such a big deal. You got to remember, the guy driving the Hulkster used to drive the blue truck. He knows how it's going to react, so he'll know how to adjust this truck. I think we're going to have a real even Steven race.
Rick Rice getting ready to give him the green light. It's our final. Dan Runte and Eric Meager. Very even off the line, even closer at the finish.
I tell you, I couldn't call it. It was literally a battle of the Blue Oval Bunch. Who's going to be the winner? We're waiting for the official word to come down. I still can't call it.
I don't know. We might have
there
to
it is. Where do we get Runte with the 482? That's an awesome run.
And awesome is the understatement. As you can see, as we take a look again, watch the start. Both Meager and Runte lightning quick on the reaction time. They keep the back wheels on the ground through the second set of jumps, but watch Meager. He hits it first, but it's Runte who gets the wheels on the ground, gets the extra bite. He carries it all the way to the finish line. Army's down with Dan Runte, our PENDA points winner.
By 2,000ths of a second, you're the man that takes a win, but I got to be real honest with these folks. You came back to the pit area and asked us who won. It must have been dead close down there.
It was real close. You know, like that last race against Pam, you never pay any attention when you're racing somebody like that on who's on the other lane. You know, I had to make up last round. I knew Eric was going to run tough. He ran the left lane all day. I'd been running the left lane. He threw me in the right lane. I had to slow her time before. I didn't have a choice. The guys, I mean, a great crew, you know, take you back, pick you up, and tell you, hey, get your head together and let's go racing. Bigfoot Ford won it.
And on the strength of that win, Bigfoot.
Yeah, but the season's off. The PENDA points chase is on, and it's going to be a great year for racing the big trucks.
And I think we're going to see these guys all season long dueling it out. Bigfoot and the new WCW Hulkster.
Yeah, but don't count on Dodge and Chevrolets out either.
Hey, we certainly hope you had a lot of...
Right now we head back to round 2 racing in the competition area, and a good look at Dan Runte in the Bigfoot Ford, your current points leader, heading into round number 2. He's going up against Paul Schaefer in Monster Patrol, and Paul's no stranger to racing as well. A world champion mud racer, a very successful businessman, and an innovator. He gets jacked up right now for round number 2, though, as Dan Runte in the Bigfoot Ford is going to go up against Paul Schaefer in a Monster Patrol.
Boy, Dan Runte put a whole shot on that right lane tree. Schaefer, boy, did not have a prayer. Ford moves again into the next round. You know that. Well, Dan Runte and Kirk Dabney, semifinals. Who's going to be going against the Dodge? We know it's going to be a Ford. The question will be which one. Your current national record holder and past winner, Runte, sits in the lane closest to us. The starter gets both of them in the lanes. Dabney's ready to go. Starter waiting patiently. It's a sight game. Both of them are trying to outsight the other before they move into the final lanes. Bigfoot takes a win. He had a good bounce on the end, kept it close to the ground, a 484. His number's not as good as the Dodge. We might be setting up a little drama here as the Ford goes against the Dodge in the final. Replay comes up on the screen. Dabney actually moved first. but he stayed in the air longer. Bigfoot got down on the ground. See, Bigfoot's making horsepower now in no man's land. The final launch, and Runte bounces over the finish line to set up a Dodge Ford final.
Dan, a 484 against overkill. You're heading into the finals again.
Yeah, we're going back there. You know, it's hard to come out and do this well. I owe a lot of thanks to the crew. The Ford Bigfoot's working well. We got a lot of people behind us. It's going fast and running so consistent we can't stand it. We're just gonna go to the finals and see if we can't pull another one out of here.
Speaking of finals, that's what's coming up next. Full size 88 through 97.
Well, time now to move to our final event. Dan Runte up against Paul Schaefer, and you got to remember this battle started out even before round one, with each team claiming the other was running hopped-up fuel. Each lost a teammate along the way. Meager in the Hulkster was DQ'd for going out of bounds. Todd Froehlich couldn't make the call for the Final Four, but it still points to a Ford-Dodge showdown.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you something else. These people don't like each other. Okay, let's lay it on the line. This is a real war coming up. The first salvo has been fired in this war. Runte scored. Let's see what the Dodge can do with him now.
Well, Team Bigfoot looks on as Rick Reich gets ready to turn him loose. Brett Schaefer and Dan Runte, today's PENDA Points final.
All right, the enthusiasm, you can tell who won it. Dan Runte, a 483. The crew's excitement shows that he takes a win. Schaefer drops off. He goes to a 506, so not able to put the horsepower down he wanted to. Watch the truck attitude over the first jump. The Dodge kind of noses down. Look at Bigfoot. He's still up in the air. Now no man's land. They're both picking up on the throttle, and Runte literally flies to the finish line. The Dodge touches down first after the second jump. Doesn't make any difference. The Ford is definitely on his way.
Dan Runte, a 483 as the Bigfoot Ford makes it 2 for 2.
Like I said, I can't really say a whole bunch. Bigfoot Ford's working good. Mac Tools has helped us out a bunch here this weekend. We did have some problems. I got a great crew and a great boss. I mean, I can't say enough about it. It's just been an outstanding weekend. I'm happy as all get out.
Corporate battle round one goes to the Fords.
At a 5.44 run, he went the opposite direction. Watch this run by Dan Runte and Bigfoot. So obviously the ramps creating some problems. And again, this is stop 3. We're in the Ozarks in Springfield, Missouri. So now it's Dan Runte and the Bigfoot Ford out of St. Louis, Missouri. And he will stage against Kirk Dabney in the overkill truck. And there's a look at Kirk out of Fort Wayne, Indiana, up in the northern portion of the Hoosier State.
Big story is the big blue truck sitting next to him. Dan Runte has not lost a round all year long. He's your current points leader. No man's land to tell the story. Dabney's coming on him, Gary.
Oh, and just by a fender. Only a fender, and not particularly quick at 590.
No, not the number the Bigfoot team was looking for, but what was really spooky on that run, Gary, was no man's land when Kirk Dabney settled down and went after him. Runte left the starting line quick, as we'll be able to see in the replay, but boy, when they got to no man's land, Dabney got real serious and started making up some big time.
Here's a look from the crash cam as you duck. Here comes Dan Runte and Bigfoot. So once again, Bigfoot had a scare. He's been unbeaten in every round so far this PENDA series, but he almost got nipped right there. It's slick and hazardous, so they have some good conditions and some bad conditions here in Springfield. As we are ready now for the first race of our semis. Once again, Dan Runte and Bigfoot. There's a look at Pam Botters in the boogie van.
One thing you got to remember, Runte has not lost a lap all year long. So he could be playing a little bit of psychic game with her, and these drivers are not above doing that. He's taking his time going into the lane right now.
But Pam was quicker in the last round than was Dan Runte.
All that really does is give her lane choice for this round. Oh, that's what I'm talking about right there. A little bit of mind games. He took his time going into the light. She's sitting there with her torque converter and her RPMs up. Got a little bit nervous. He goes to the next round with a 587. She goes on the trailer.
With the red light.
It's a psych job. It's exactly what that is, and she knows it. I guarantee it'll never happen again. But Runte laid into the lights, making her a little bit nervous. As soon as she saw any kind of movement on that tree, she left. Wrong time to go.
So you can see where she red lighted, and Runte takes it out the end. and he will move on to the finals. And once again, he has yet to be defeated so far this season. As we take a look at another angle off to your right, you'll see her jump right there, and she knows she's in big trouble as Runte will take the victory. And here's Dan Runte.
Pam, uncharacteristic, made a move up there, but she said she thought she saw green.
Pam's always quick on the light. She's one to watch. The Ford Bigfoot's been running good. She had lane choice. She threw us over there. We tried something different, seen a red light, and we left and just made a decent pass to get in the next round.
To a run like this, we're ready for the finals. It's blue against red. It's Ford against Dodge. It's Bigfoot and Barefoot. Of course, they compete with these big tires. They cannot transport these trucks with the big tires, so they have to change tires. Back now for the finals under the lights here in Springfield.
You hit the Dodge Ford aspect. It's also Goodyear and Firestone. We got a race. Oh, man, Bigfoot takes the win, Gary. Schaefer has to backpedal. A 5:22, quick of the evening, the final run. That's the quickest time. But Schaefer on the right of your screen, as you'll see, not able to square up with that second jump. He's out of shape now.
So Dan Runte remains unbeaten in PENDA competition. Let's go down to victory lane and talk to Dan Runte and the team owner, Bob Chandler.
You knew you were going to have a battle on your hands. You knew stepping into the name Bigfoot that you had some tough shoes to fill. Okay, and this is the guy that trusted you and believed in you.
Yeah, he is. You know, you got a lot of big shoes to fill when you come into this. He's got a good team, a good guys, bunch of guys at the shop. Ford Bigfoot pulled it out. It's tough on a PENDA point series. We just did the best we could round by round, and I'm kind of fired up. And like I said, he is a great boss.
Fans are filing out of Springfield. This is the man that's responsible for it. You're looking at Bob Chandler as he goes around to congratulate his new driver. Jim Kramer there congratulating him. Gary, it's been a great night.
Our congratulations to the Bigfoot team. For Army Armstrong, I'm Gary Lee. We'll see you next week.
Truck preparation. Sampson comes out going against Bigfoot. Ford against Chevy. Privateer Dan Patrick right here used to work for the Bigfoot camp. He's out by himself now out of Ohio, out of the Buckeye State, going up against a kid that literally was that when he started to work for Bigfoot. Dan was over there as the mentor. This guy comes over just as a new kid on the block. Now he's stepped up in the driver's seat. That would be Dan Runte.
And of course, Dan Patrick built many of these monster truck frames. He knows this sport from the ground up.
Gary, the kid takes the win, so he beat his mentor in that round of 491, and it didn't look like he was really running the truck that hard.
Looks like the track is getting...
Well, another lap down. These guys are still trying to figure some way to beat you.
Yeah, the Ford Bigfoot's running good. We're changing a lot of things round by round, just adjusting for the track. This track's a lot different than it was the last race here. Got a good crew. We're just going to have to wait and see what happens. We're picking up time every round. We're just going to go on with it.
Once again, it's Ford against Dodge. We saw one set of teammates. Here are the other teammates on the Dodge team and the Ford team.
Remember, I referred to the other team with no disrespect as to being the number 2 trucks in the team. Now we're looking at the number 1 guys in each of these teams. Runte in the Ford. Buku horsepower. Motor sitting right beneath the driver behind him. Same scenario for the Dodge. The only difference, you're running a big Dodge Hemi and Fred Schaefer's truck, which is closest to the camera. Not a lot of love between these teams. Not any love between these teams. Again, corporate America's watching it. They've got one win for the Ford camp. Let's see what's going to happen here.
Look at the wheel! Look at that wheel stand Fred Schaefer put on the show. If you can't win be spectacular, Dan Runte won it. But boy, was Fred Schaefer spectacular. And look at the crowd.
Man, they are into it. Schaefer, that is just nothing but experience. A less experienced driver would have backed on the throttle and completely come over. Schaefer on the gas after the first jump, wheels it up, pulls the feet out of the water. Now he's on the throttle big time. He's got to keep it balanced, and that's exactly what he does for the second jump.
Yeah, he had to keep his foot in the throttle to keep that rear end churning and pulling. And oh, what a ride for Fred. Well, here is a look now from the crush cam. Watch Fred Schaefer and Barefoot in back. It looks like a huge grizzly walking right at you. What an impressive, spectacular ride for Fred Schaefer. But the victory went to Dan Runte. And here's Runte with Army.
Were you aware that he was taking a wild ride out there next to you?
Honestly, no. It's getting so close and so fast here, PENDA Point Series. It's just getting tough. You got to run your own race, basically race the light and just go down through there. No, they said he took a real wild ride, though. I mean, all the way down through there. Ford Bigfoot Firestone tires. We got her done again.
So, as we are now ready for the finals, can that truck right there remain unbeaten? Bigfoot Dan Runte leads the PENDA Points Championship, goes up against his Bigfoot teammate, the Hulkster, Eric Meager.
Meager had quick qualifying time of the night. He has been beat by Dan before. They're good friends, they're good competitors, but keep the word competitor in mind. Meager would love nothing better than to thump this blue truck in Missouri. You got to remember, these guys are in their own home state, so bragging rights is important here. World Championship Wrestling on one of them. On the other truck, the blue truck, you're going to see sponsors like you've never seen in racing before, like the name Microsoft. You see Firestone. You see Deflector Shield. All the major corporations getting involved in this sport because these guys can get you some exposure, and that's what it's all about. Right now, bragging rights, Gary Lee. You take the call for the final in Springfield.
Runte playing some head games with his teammate like he did with Pam Botters earlier. Didn't work, though. Who's going to take it? Oh, Big Blue. Bigfoot remains unbeaten. Dan Runte at a 4.93.
The big question now is, can this guy go a year without getting beat? Replay comes up on the screen. Both good drivers move first in the far lane.
But after the first jump, the Big Blue Bigfoot settles down right here. He applies the horsepower, gets it hooked up, launches off that second ramp, and takes the victory. So Dan Runte remains unbeaten, well atop the PENDA Points Championship. Here's your winner.
Well, as a crew, congratulations. We're going to have to call him the unstoppable Dan Runte. Man, this is an awesome. I don't think I've known anybody to go this far without getting beat.
We're doing great. Like I said, I got a great team. I can't say enough about Mac Tools behind us, Ford and Firestone, all those people. But like the guys I got here, I got to give them all the credit. Every time we needed a little more, Gary, Celine, he gave me a little more, and the Ford Bigfoot went out there and just did an awesome job tonight. Thanks.
Well, our congratulations as they start spraying. I'm not sure that's champagne. Oh, that's just a super shooter. Little water gun action down there. Well, we hope you enjoyed all of tonight's monster truck racing from Springfield, Missouri. For Army Armstrong, I'm Gary Lee. Our congratulations to Dan Runte, Bob Chandler, and the What Can You Do? Well, Dan Runte in the Bigfoot truck took that challenge, and right off the trailer, he laid down a 4.93, only 1/10 off. So the Hulkster would have the #1 qualifying position. The next matchup, there's Pam Botters in the Boogie Van against Dan Runte and Bigfoot. But first, let's go back to the pit area and talk to Tim Tesmer. Well, the competition continues. There's Dan Runte, who ran a 4.93 in round one to defeat the Monster Patrol. He also qualified at 4.93, so he has been very consistent this afternoon. Now, the Boogie Van with Pam Botters ran a 5.33, the fast loser to Rampage.
You got to remember, though, the last time these vehicles ran, Dan played mind games with her. Remember, he psyched her out, pushed her into a red light situation. So watch Pam now. She's trying to take control of the starting line. She's not going to go until she wants to go.
Well, this has been a day of upsets and strange happenings, so let's see what happens if she can out-psych or defeat Dan Runte.
She runs him good, but Runte is like he is on a mission, Gary Lee. It's awesome. A 4.93, and you can hear him winging the throttle when he went over the finish line.
That is 3 straight 4.93s today in qualifying round one and round two. As we take a look again, it was all Dan Runte. The Boogie Van, incidentally, went a 5.32, but Runte remains unbeaten this season in PENDA Points competition.
Both drivers lead the start good, but, man, the second jump, Runte is just out and muscling his way. Dan Runte, I tell you what, I know it's not easy, but you're making it look easy.
We've had a good race season so far this year, Army. The truck's working well. Ford Bigfoot's pulling a lot of wins out of here. You know, this has always been a tough weekend for us. We've come here and found out that maybe it isn't so bad. We're just going to have to wait and see. We're going for another win again today.
So we'll go racing now for a right to go into the finals. Will it be that truck right there, Bigfoot, unbeaten all season long with Dan Runte at the controls? Or will it be the Hercules truck?
One thing you can bet on, Hercules is going to put it on tilt. Oh, Runte reading the right act. He has won the race already. Hercules pulls right off. What? I have no idea what can be going wrong with these vehicles, Gary.
Well, keep in mind, second place in the point standings is Eric Meager. He will not be in the finals, which means that if Bigfoot can win this thing this afternoon, he will widen that gap between first and second in the PENDA Points Championship. So Bigfoot with a 5-2-0. Hercules DQ'd.
Just like a mirror image of the last race, but the wind comes out of the right lane, the breakage comes out of the left lane.
Looking now at Bigfoot coming right at you. Boy, I tell you what, nobody can touch this truck this season. You talk about being lucky.
Yeah. Well, the harder you work, the luckier you get. Always remember that. These guys work awful hard.
So watch the suspension work. Nose down coming off that second set of cars. And look at the suspension work. Well, let's go down and talk to Tim Tesmer.
Were you aware that he was having any kind of problem at all?
No, Army. I mean, that's something Kenny and Gary and Herbie and all those guys try to drive in my head. Go out there, run your own race, race the lights, and go down through there the best you can. You know, you don't have time really anymore in a PENDA series like this. We're going so fast that you got to run your own race, and you can't worry about what's going on over there.
So can Mark Hall be the X-Minute? Mark Hall gets set for his first final. In the Executioner, he will take on Bigfoot. And talk about a big task. Bigfoot unbeaten this season as Dan Runte prepares to stage the big blue Ford.
Dan Runte, like you said, he's a sharp driver. He's a good driver, but he listens to people that have been around before. The kid in the lane next to him we're looking at right now, Mark Hall, the same way. These young men are the future of this sport. They both worked hard to get here, one in a Ford, one in a Chevrolet. Keep that win streak going, Gary.
Mark ran him hard. A good run for Mark, but a 5:11 slower than he had been. But Dan Runte wins it. He remains unbeaten, and Mark Hall goes a 5:23 in the Executioner. As you take a look again at the replay.
Like he said, he doesn't race the guy in the lane next to him. He races the track. He races the clock, and he races to the finish line.
Bigfoot remains unbeaten, pads the points lead in the PENDA Points Championship. Let's go down trackside and visit with our winner.
After a few congratulatory words from your older mentor here, Herb Richards, this is a perfect season. It's never been done before.
We're working real hard at it. Thank Herbie and Kenny and all the guys here. I mean, like I said, we got a great team. Ford Bigfoot's working well. Firestone tires are hooking up where nobody else is. I just can't say enough about it. I mean, we got a bunch of great sponsors.
Mark, you know, is a good driver. That could have been the break he was looking for. It looked like he ran you hard down there.
He did. He ran all the way down through there. Like I said, I don't pay a lot of attention to what goes on the other side. It's just something you got to do. Go out there and run as hard as you can run every time you go in this group.
Well, 5 straight in the PENDA Points Championship is a production of Diamond P Sports in association with the...
At about 65 or 70 mile an hour flying through the air. No, they can indeed shut them down safely at Bloomsburg. Remember, the infamous shutdown area at Bloomsburg is taking a bite out of a lot of people. Today, the drivers don't believe that's going to happen. They're going to try to get a piece of the old girl themselves. Coming to Bloomsburg, it's kind of a happening. Speaking of a happening, man, so many times before, Dan Runte and Bigfoot teaming up with Firestone and Ford to set a quick qualifying time of a 5:08. That should give him lane choice for a lifetime to run that quick. He's out of St. Louis, Missouri. He'll be going up against a truck in the other lane. It goes by the name of the Dungeon of Doom. The last time we saw this vehicle, indeed, was indoors in the RCA Dome. The bodies in these vehicles are rather unique. They're designed by a guy out of Winsville, Missouri by the name of George Link. This truck will be driven by Sky Hartley. I tell you what, the motor located in the front shouldn't slow this truck down. He's shown he can run as we get ready for next round racing.
Boy, you know, you would think that Dan Runte would have easily put away that competitor, but that was almost an upset.
No, he ran him strong. Now, keep in mind, we might be setting a precedent here. 5:16 was the winning time. The replay is going to come up. The question is, watch your left front wheel. It's his right. Does it hit the second set of jump cars? That's the question. It should. If it doesn't, there should be a disqualification. We're going to have to wait and see what the call is on that. Quick qualifying time, he took that right lane. That may be the story.
So does Dan Runte in Bigfoot. He has yet to lose a round this season, Army.
Yeah, but today he goes into the lane he does not want to be in. Lane choice goes to Fred Schaefer. Let's see what's going to happen. Remember, the Dodge is a little bit longer than the Ford. Watch the first motion. Straight or down and forward. That's what we got to wait and see. Exactly what I thought. I mean, Fred lands real hard on the right side. He tweaks a torque bar or something. Bigfoot, look at that, a 486, a good, strong run, quickest of the day.
Well,
Fred's got some problems there in the front suspension, I believe.
Definitely some damage there. Let's take a look at it again on the replay.
Now, what happens with the transmission and the long wheelbase? The truck is locked in right now. There's no shifting. It is locked. It's on full kill. So it has to react as such. And it's just not consistent. That is a good running monster truck. They just got to get it tweaked.
Well, he not only knocked the fender off, he did some other damage to that right side.
Now, Bigfoot on the other side, basically he just made a squat move, went straight the other end. All four wheels are on the ground. Look, you see on the right, the front two wheels are off. You knew Fred was going to run you hard.
Yeah, he had lane choice coming out there, too, and that makes the difference. I mean, we've been running the right lane. Freddie been running the right lane. Ford Bigfoot just pulled it out of there again. The Firestone tires are hooking up unbelievable for all the rain we got here. Like I said, great team. I just can't say enough about them. We're just going to keep going, and maybe we'll pull another one out of here.
Well, it's awfully polite of him to mention everybody, but don't discount the New Yorkers take it. Well, we're up to the final now. It's Dan Runte and Bigfoot taking on Eric Meager in the Hulkster. We'll see if Dan can do it again.
This is going to be a good run. Eric Meager has been coming after Dan, coming after him. They're good friends. They run out of the same shop, the Bob Chandler Racing operation. The trucks are maintained out of the same operation, but they are completely different teams. So you're going to see some real racing. The track is good for both trucks. The wheelbase of the Ford are going to fit right in the starting groove. So you should see some good racing here. The guy that leaves the starting line quick is going to be the guy on the other end. What gets me, though, lane choice, Runte has chosen the left lane. He decided not to go to the right lane. That surprises me. Well, it worked for him, whatever he did.
Boy, it seemed like the right choice. There's Dan Runte.
Whoa, look at the number of 479. That is quick, Tom.
Army's with our winner.
A perfect season. You have not been beaten one time. I even think you go through the cafeteria line in front of everybody. Can you keep it up?
I don't know, Army. Today we had some problems out there just lane-wise. I mean, it was a hard track to pick lanes on. Thanks to Ford and MSD Blower Drive Services putting some major support behind us as far as working on our stuff and working with us on our stuff to find the best. And I can't say enough about, what's going on, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm going to win all these either.
All right, congratulations to Dan Runte for a banner year he's having. And that just about wraps things up for Army Armstrong. I'm Tom Rivers. We'll see you on Trucks and Tractor Power next week. Trucks and Tractor Power.
And their fate was not to get much better as Mike Vaughters goes out after the first round, suffering the same fate as Alan Pizzo. First round blues. This blue is a Bigfoot blue with a 531. That's one of the many manufactured Midway stories we got to tell. But right now, the story we're going to be talking about is Pam Vaughters, the Boogie Van, the only woman driver on the circuit, as she'll be going out in competition out of Hagerstown, Maryland. But Pam will draw none other than the old Bigfoot himself. Yes, folks, your current national points leader, a man that has not been beaten all year long, has not lost a race, has not lost a round. Dan Runte out of St. Louis, Missouri, will line up against the other lady in the other lane.
Well, you hope that she's going to be able to give Dan a run for his money, but I'll tell you what, if I were lining up next to Dan Runte, I'd have to be thinking,
he is in the zone, if there is such a thing.
No question. Yeah, I'd call that the zone.
I call that the end zone, is what I call that. Look here, a 477, and she ran a strong run. The license plate kind of tells the story. #1 truck, USA, Ford, Bigfoot, unbeatable all year long, a 477. Is there going to be any stopping you at all?
The truck's running great. Got to thank Ford Motor Company. Fords are the best. We know it. We're just out here to prove it. Eric's truck's running good. The two trucks are real consistent. A lot of guys are coming up here. I mean, they're all getting a lot tighter. We got to watch what we're doing, and we got to keep getting tight. We'll see what happens.
Speaking of Monster Patrol, he's still alive in the action. That keeps alive the hopes of the Chevrolet fans. And the camera angle makes him look like he's in the air, but Right now, he's going up against the baddest of the bad. If we were in a gunfight, we would know only one's going to walk away. That's the name of this game. Who's he going up against? The boys in blue out of St. Louis. I ought to name this thing the St. Louis Blues, because everybody that goes against him winds up singing the blues. Dan Runte on an unbelievable run this year. But you can't take anything away from the Monster Patrol team. They're reeling this team in. Monster Patrol, the privateers. Runte's involved with some corporate involvement. So let's see what's going to happen here. Chevrolet versus Ford, as both drivers very cautious about working into the starting beams, Tom.
Well, Dan Runte's going to be hard to beat on this, but we'll take a look and see if Monster Patrol can do it. Let's watch. Not a chance.
Yeah. We're playing hand grenade. We would have been close on that one.
Dan Runte and Bigfoot runs a 4.72.
You know, the whole thing is the Monster Patrol Schaefer's is running strong too, but a 4.72, you just can't beat it.
Let's take a look again. You'll see how
the truck settles down right here. See, when all four wheels hit, it pulls straight. Everybody else is having trouble when those front tires hit after a wheelie. Nah, these guys just pull like it's on a chain or a rope. It'll pull them to the other end.
Pull straight through. Looks great. Let's have Army check with Dan Runte as he climbs out of Bigfoot.
Big number, Dan, a 4.72. That is just fast.
It's getting faster every pass. It's actually getting scary fast. If you ever heard anybody say that before, the truck's doing great. BDS, they've helped us out, like I said before. I can't say enough. I don't even know what to think anymore. The truck's getting so fast. Ford's your best, and that's all I got to tell you.
Well, you got to believe in your product, and Dan Runte certainly does. Scary fast is the term. Dan Runte in Bigfoot versus Eric Meager in the Hulkster.
And these guys are not here for the fun of it. They want to, it's like an old-time slapping contest. I'm very serious. These guys are good friends until right now. They're both back in the pit area. They're psyching themselves up. They have not made eye contact in the last 30 minutes. They're going to race. The blue truck wants to beat the yellow truck. Just as bad, the yellow truck wants to beat the blue truck. This is what it's all about. Woo! What a race.
Boy, that was a nice run on the part of both drivers, but Dan Runte in Bigfoot carries it off with a 4.73.
Blew by you on the other end. Man, what a run by Runte. And Eric drove him a good race. These trucks are just about evenly matched.
Look how similar they look on the run.
Yeah, exactly. Both trucks handle the same. Hey, tip for a hat to the guys in the blue team. They're looking good.
Yep, it was margin of victory was just by a nose. And Dan Runte the winner. Here's Army with him.
Did it again.
Guys, real quick, what do you say? A perfect season. Hadn't even been beaten in a heat race yet or a lap or anything. It's perfect. But how do you keep the tempo up?
It's Fords, that's all I can tell you. I mean, you got a great group of guys. The trucks are going out there running good, both of them. I mean, semifinals, you come out of that 0.2 of a second different. You can't say any more than that. I mean, all the way back to the shop, it's just great. Ford Motor Company, BDS, all them guys. I mean,
well, Herb said he taught you everything you know.
That's pretty close to it.
That's why they call me old man.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Army. Thank you all.
Congratulations to Dan Runte, Barefoot, Rampage, and Executioner. That'll wrap it up for Bloomsburg. For Army Armstrong,
on the PENDA Point Series to show up here in Canfield, check out Bill Haslett in Super Truck 20. Now, this truck is owned by Paul Schaefer as a monster-sized version of the NASCAR Super Truck, but unfortunately, Haslett went up against Dan Runte and Bigfoot in round one, and Super Truck 20 was trailered early. Let's check in now with my colleague as we take a look at Alan Pizzo's Predator lining up against the guy that has been just unbeatable so far this season.
Well, he hasn't lost a lap all year long. That'll be Dan Runte out of St. Louis, Missouri, driving the awesome Bigfoot truck. Pizzo had some problems in the previous round trying to keep the truck straight in between the jumps. Let's see if they've been able to tighten this truck up where it will go straight. Still a little bit tight on the starting line, wheelied over the first jump. Bigfoot takes a win with a 4.97, and Gary, he made it look easy. You know, it's strange, in the past, nobody would touch that right lane, and here you're just dialed in on it.
Yeah, right lane's working good for both trucks here on the Ford team. We're just going to have to wait and see what happens. Both these lanes are going away a little bit. We're having some problems with them. You know, it's just getting tough trying to decide which one you want to go to now. It's just a matter of playing it out and hoping Firestone tires keep biting the way they're doing. We'll go on down through there.
The happy camper with that run as we take a look at his teammate. There's Dan Runte in the undefeatable Bigfoot Ford.
And look what lane Runte's in. He picks the right lane, too. He'll be going up against Schaefer in the left lane. The left lane, there's poles over there. The right lane, there's drop-offs over here. This is not going to be an easy win.
Look who's watching. The entire Bigfoot crew standing outside the hauler.
Schaefer was worried about Willian. The air is cooler. If anything, he'll make more horsepower. That could be a definite problem for him if they did not tighten that truck up.
Going to be his downfall as the big blue Ford will go up against that driver right there for the championship here in Canfield. A 495 for Dan Runte and a big wheelie. Here it is again, the far lane. Watch the big red barefoot Dodge, and that is the wheelie that Fred was concerned with.
Yeah, it did exactly what he did not want it to do. Not only wheelied, it bounced off of the rear wheels when it got up. That's how high it went, Gary.
So it's going to be an all-Ford final from the Bigfoot stable. Dan Runte, now watch how smooth the old pro is.
Now the question I have is who's going to get the run in this lane in the final, because both winners for the final came out of the lane. And remember, the guys were saying this is the bad lane. I don't believe it, Gary.
Well, I think that Runte had the fastest time, so he should get lane choice. Should make for an interesting final here in Canfield. Let's go down and talk to Dan Runte.
Starting line either pays dividend or bankruptcy in this sport, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. You know, you got to go out there and cut a good light. These guys are all running tough. If you don't go out there and do it, it's going to bite you, you know. I don't know if Fred went out there. I don't really know what happened. It's another thing. You don't have a whole lot of time to pay attention. We're keeping it together. We put the two Fords in the finals, and we're going to see what comes out of this one.
Well, a crowd pleaser here will be...
Well, it's final time. We're going to find out something I've been wondering all night long. Who's going to get the right lane for the finals? Both Fords, but who's going to the right? We'll find out in just a second.
And can Eric Meager finally do something no one else has done all season long, knock out Dan Runte? All right, it's Dan Runte against Eric Meager, Ford against Ford. Look at that. Meager gets the right lane.
I wonder if that was his choice, or did Runte want that left lane? I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. These guys will play some poker with you here about what's good and what's bad, but right now, only the strong survive. The Flying Croissant in one lane and the Blue Bandit in the other one, if you will.
And once again, Runte has yet to be defeated in any round of competition this season.
For the whole year, yeah, nobody's beat him yet.
But this is the guy that could do it right here.
Runte's out like a rocket.
And Runte continues that incredible win streak. Man. Runte takes the victory in that left lane of 491.
Dominance is not a good enough word for what that truck is doing to this sport.
Well, take a look now at the far lane. A great light. I mean, Dan Runte cut a terrific light, and he kept the momentum up, and he takes the victory. Once again, Dan running in victory lane. He's with Army.
Dan, 8 in a row. You know, this has got to be the most awesome thing in motorsports that's happened in many years.
It's an awesome team, Army. The Fords are running good this year. Third time in 8 races, got thrown in a bad lane. It's got to say something for the truck. Firestone's helped us out, Blower Drive Service, MSD Ignition, a bunch of great sponsors have been behind us. I mean, we can't thank those enough, but I also got a great bunch of guys, and we'll just keep this string up as long as we keep going. I'm so happy.
And of course, Runte will make that 33 as we advance into round 2 here at Canfield. I realize it may be the best truck. It has factory backing, a great support team. But the guy in the cockpit can make a difference, because Dan Runte does not beat himself. He always cuts a good light on the tree.
It was a 492 by the big blue truck of Runte. Everybody kind of expected it. But when the truck settled after the second jump, something happened that could have spelled disaster for this team. Runte had some problems with the truck. Actually blew a tire out, Gary.
Well, Runte flattened the right rear tire on that pass, and he has to help the crew. It's a big job to change a tire on these. In fact, with the tire sizes, they have to change both rear tires so they'll match for handling purposes.
You're exactly right. The tires are matched pairs, and don't do one of anything in this sport. You do two, and each one of these tires weigh around 1,000 pounds, so no easy task, Gary, if you will.
And Dan had the combination. He took on Fred Schaefer in round 1. Fred was the slowest qualifier. That's why this pairing came up. But Fred pulls a big wheelie, was DQ and out of bounds. And the measure goes to Dan Runte. Army talk with both drivers.
You knew he was going to cut the tree on you.
Yeah, Fred always comes out. He does cut the tree good on you. We lost a tire in qualifying, you know, one of our good Firestone tires. We're back to a set that's not quite cut as good, but we're working with it. We're going to have to do some changing on the Ford Bigfoot. We're just going to go back and see what it does and try to work our way through this thing, get over it.
Tim Tesmer and Hercules against Dan Runte and Bigfoot. There's a look at Tim from the Buckeye State of Ohio. Didn't have to travel too far to be here this weekend. And he has the unenviable task of taking on the so far undefeated Dan Runte in the big blue Ford.
You know, what you're looking at is a classic example of the factory racer against the privateer, and that's not taking anything against anybody. Dan Runte works just as hard as anybody out there, but you got a top end and a bottom end to the spectrum, and that's what you're looking at here. A guy on the far side's pulling all the money off his hip. The guy that's going to take the win cashes the corporate check.
Well, of course, there's no ill effects there from the tire problem we saw in qualifying. They changed the rear tires on Bigfoot, and he went through round 1. Well, now we have Dodge against Ford. There is the big blue Bigfoot Ford of Dan Runte. Has yet to taste a loss this season. Has won every round of competition. He goes up against the black Dodge Rampage.
And you know, this guy has got Runte in his crosshair. Just a win here could make your whole year if you're from the Dodge camp.
Well, everybody at this point has that big blue truck in the crosshairs. Rampage got him. Rampage got him. A 5.11. The Dodge finally knocks off Bigfoot. The first loss for Dan Runte this season.
They'll still be dancing when the sun comes up, man. That makes a year for you right there. It's a good run, too.
He had him at the tree, had him in no man's land. It was all Dodge. Oh, my. What a big victory for Todd. He has to be ecstatic. He's with Army.
Dan, Todd said it was so close down there, he had no idea who won that race.
It was a close race, Army. I mean, it was right down there. The wire got a little crossed up there in no man's land, as you call it, and had to lift to get the front end back down to get it back to the second set. It's just a chance you got to take. We'll be back later. We'll get another one.
So for the first time this season, we're going to...
The season, and Gary had a chance to catch up with him a little bit earlier to talk about it.
The question had been, wow, can he go the entire season without losing a round? Now, going back and looking at that defeat to the Rampage, it looked like maybe he got the whole shot. He looked like he drilled you at the light.
Yeah, he did. You know, he come out a little harder than we did at the light. That was a little different track conditions. I mean, we were having problems hooking up on the line. We sat and spun. His truck actually left there. He's running a different transmission. The Ford worked good all day. I mean, it just came down to one of them deals where we didn't get the traction we needed off the line, and he pulled it out of there.
Right now, it would appear you have a big lead in the point standings, but just a couple of miscues on your behalf, and your teammate's going to be right there on your heels.
Yeah, Eric's a person you got to watch all the time, too. I mean, he's right there. He's knocking on your back door. As a matter of fact, he said to me at the last outing, if he could take it away from me, he wanted to be the one that would do it. You know, he didn't want to see somebody else take it away. He wanted it.
Round 1 highlights now from Canfield, Bigfoot and the Monster Patrol. Now, in this event, Bigfoot would take the victory, but the Monster Patrol would come back as the fast loser. There's the 489. Coming up next, there is Samson. That is the old Dungeon of Doom truck. It's been leased for the weekend by Dan Patrick, and he'll be staging alongside a former teammate, Bigfoot and Dan Runte.
Bigfoot and the Tooth Fairy in this round, if you will.
Well, there's a look at Dan Runte out of St. Louis, Missouri. He won everything to the last outing when he got knocked out by the Dodge of Froelich, and there is Dan Patrick. And Patrick has built a lot of these trucks.
Yeah, exactly. Patrick in the Renner Racer in the far lane. We call him the Tooth Fairy. And then Runte, if this kid had been born 100 years ago, he'd been a gunslinger. He's that cool.
Well, he's going to take this victory without working up a sweat. But as we're watching this action, there may be a problem back in the pit area. Let's go back and check in with Army.
Diving at the finish line.
There's Alan Pizzo in the Predator. And Pizzo will go up against Dan Runte in Bigfoot. So let's see if Bigfoot can get back in victory lane after getting dethroned the last outing here at Canfield.
You know, Pizzo's been on a roll here, and Bob Chandler, you talk about a hands-on guy. You can say what you want to about this guy, but that's why his trucks stay on top, is he keeps him so involved in it. He checks the computer. He's checking temperature now. It's just amazing what you got to do, but that's why you stay number one. Whoa, Gary, a red light on the Bigfoot team.
Alan Pizzo will take the victory, a DQ. What did we say earlier about Dan Runte never beating himself?
Wow. Well, hey, and you can't take anything away from Pizzo. The red light tells it all. It doesn't lie, and it doesn't have any favorites. He just moved too quick. He knew that Pizzo was coming in on him. He knew Pizzo was going to cut a tree on him, so he did what he had to do.
And a big upset is Dan Runte.
Good race, just cut a light quick. I mean, it happens to everybody now or then.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I went out there looking at next round, trying to lay down a good pass, you know, trying to get a lane choice, and just left a little early. That's all I can say.
You got to race a race one lap at a time.
Yeah, that's just it, and I forgot that time. That was my fault, nobody else's.
After winning 8 straight events, he has lost in the last 2 semifinal rounds. Oh my, the champion somewhat depressed right now, as it's a tough situation for the Giant. Will go up against Bigfoot. That's a tough draw for the first time outdoors.
You're exactly right. Like I say, Dale definitely is a strong runner indoors. There's a whole new ball game coming outdoors, and he told us that. He said, this is a learning curve for me.
Yeah, and you don't want to go up against this guy, Dan Runte, after he's been knocked out the last 2 rounds of competition. Runte, of course, won 8 straight before he got knocked out in the semis in the 9th event and red-lighted in the standing by now with Army.
Dan, you look at the track, it actually looks dusty, but really the characteristics of the truck, it is running in mud.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a hard surface here, and when they put water on it, it really gets greasy, so that's making it a tough track to judge. You know, after it dries up and we get it dug up, it really turns into a pretty good track. That pass there, we just slipped on top, a little lost a little time. We'll just see if we can, that's good enough for lane choice.
Well, you see the mud being kicked up, and there you can see the mud on those big tires. So
run out of the same basic operation, and folks, I'm going to tell you, it's not going to happen. These 2 guys are racers. Bob Chandler's giving both of them the green light. If nothing else, they want bragging rights to go back to St. Louis with. You're going to see a good race here.
Of course, Runte wants back in victory lane as they're both staged now for the launch.
Runte's got it on kill.
Oh, good.
He's in trouble.
Battle, but Runte hangs on. No, he doesn't. He's upside down. Dan Runte in the shutdown area got upside down. Of course, the cloud of dust now obscuring our view. Now we start to see the inverted truck as the crew members are running over to Dan Runte. He got in trouble in the shutdown area.
That right lane, Gary, at Canfield caught him. He got over the lip. You hear the emergency crews heading that way.
There's the damage to the fiberglass, the doghouse, as the crew now talking inside the cockpit. The helmet is off. He is okay, but obviously he is stunned. He obviously is stunned. You can hear the crowd reaction in the background. What a violent rollover for Dan Runte. A terrible weekend here in Canfield. Let's go trackside to Army.
Well, Gary, as you can see, they're immediately taking him over to the medical staff. Herb Richards, his mentor, is on his left side. The medical staff's with him right now. So the fire department's right here to hose everything down. The safety equipment worked. Dan's all right. I'm going to try to get a word with him real quick. Dan, can I speak to you real quick before you get to the medical guys? Just a second. Do you have any idea what caused it to move like that?
I hit the second ramp, trying to pull it back in, you know, run a clean race. The truck was out of shape over the first ramp. Had to stay in it knowing it was Eric, and when it went up in the air, it just kicked it sideways, and we're basically done when it come down. Just tried to drive back under it, come off the edge there, and it hurt.
Okay, let me get you in there with these guys. Thanks a lot, fellas. Good luck to you, Dan.
Thank you. Concentrate on the next one.
Gary, the replay comes up. Did you hear the last thing he said to Eric Meagher? He said, concentrate on the next race. Always thinking about the next one. Watch the right rear tire here. What happens with only 4 pounds of air pressure? It digs in when he lands, see, and it's crossed up. Now he gets on the throttle, trying to pull it back around. Being a 4-wheel drive, knowing if any corner's going, If any corner touches, he can pull it back. It was too late. He hit that infamous drop-off at Canfield and went over the wall.
Safety equipment, though, doing the job required. The roll cage, the harness, the helmet, the seat belt. So the driver is okay. We'll come back with more from Canfield. Welcome back to Canfield, Ohio. This was just moments ago as they clean up the aftermath of the wreck involving Dan Runte and Bigfoot. A lot of cosmetic damage to that truck.
Yeah, the roll cage kept its integrity. The driver standing right there, all the safety equipment, the Simpson helmet, and everything did exactly what they were supposed to do. RJS and Simpson make good safety equipment, and we're glad for that.
Paul Schaefer, the 12th fast qualifier, in the Monster Patrol. That is the truck nearest to the camera. But in round one, it was all Dan Runte and Bigfoot trying to once again find victory lane after losing the last two outings. Well, ready for round two competition. There's a look at Dan Runte and Bigfoot. He, of course, has clinched the PENDA Points Championship, but would like to get back on the winning track as he pulls up alongside Dan Patrick and Sampson.
Now, Dan Patrick used to work for the Bigfoot organization. He has since gone out on his own and does a lot of manufacturing and fabricating for other monster truck teams. Dan Runte, like you said, he's been the home run kid all year long and done a great job of driving that truck. But right now, the friendship they had goes out the window. It's time to race.
Chevrolet against Ford. Ford the far lane, Chevy the near lane. Sampson against Bigfoot. And to no one's surprise, it is Dan Runte in the big blue Ford. Now keep in mind that Sampson, Dan Patrick, has built about half these trucks in competition here this afternoon.
You're exactly right, and he actually makes a move on the Bigfoot truck first. Is that when the big blue Ford got in no man's land right here, it just started muscling the horsepower on the other end. But Sampson tells us keep an eye open in 97.
Of course, you've got the pair of Dodge, the Dodge Rampage and the Barefoot.
Oh, and on the front of the Stinger truck, I noticed a little doll of Hulk Hogan.
No.
Yeah,
is that Hulkster?
Yes, sir, what?
Well, there's the Stinger truck, and he had lane choice. So after that dumb question of yours that he didn't answer,
that's right.
He's
well,
taking the right lane.
That truck does look like the world's flying croissant if you look at it with that tail up like that. That's one of the creations of the GTS fiberglass people out of Winsville, Missouri, who does all the fiberglass bodies for these trucks. And the sponsorship came along with WCW. They made some different looking trucks, and boy, did they make some different looking trucks. But this one is one of the new Ford body styles that has been so popular for so many years. There's been a lot of blue Ford sold since Bob Chandler got involved in monster truck racing, I guarantee you that. But right now, there's no love lost between these two guys. They may be teammates. And really, they're running identical engines, identical transmissions. Their teams have been swapping information back. But right now, it goes in the hand of these two young men, Eric Meager and Dan Runte, who you're looking at now.
Well, in the near lane, or actually the left lane, is Dan Runte. He has clinched the PENDA Points Championship. His teammate Eric Meager will finish second in the PENDA Points Championship.
Yeah, but you throw all that out right now because we're racing. And all the numbers in the world don't count. It's the first one to the other end at this point in time.
Little mind game here at the tree. Late staging.
All right, Meager took him.
Eric Meager took it. So the 8th race win streak stopped, and now Dan Runte has lost 3 in a row.
Meager cut a light on him. He moved first, but settles down in no man's land and immediately goes at 5:01.
So Meager takes the victory. He'll go to the championship round.
Before, but he burped the throttle and spooked the starter. He hit the switch and guy went to the other end.
And that was the first win from the left lane all weekend.
Well, a win is a win is a win. And if you got it, whatever. Dan Patrick against Dan Runte. The DD boys are on the line right now. One in a Ford, one in a Chevrolet. And they've been there before many times. Both drivers respect each other. Gene Patterson, one-time driver for the Bigfoot team, working with Patrick, lining him up right now. Patterson has 2 new little baby girls, by the way. I want to congratulate he and his lovely wife.
Dan Patrick, a builder of many of the trucks competing here this weekend.
Like we say, Patrick Winterton's lined up a major sponsor for next year and feels he'll be able to step up and run with the boys out of Hazelwood.
Well, right now it's Factory against Privateer, and Factory would take this round at a 4.89 for Dan Runte. So move on to the semis, and There's a look at Kirk Dabney in the overkill. And Kirk, of course, will have to stage against the big blue Ford.
He is the only truck to win out of the left lane all weekend long. We told you earlier how we did it. And he's still up there grinning ear to ear right now, I guarantee it. Dan Runte knows that Dabney's going to be tough with him. Like I told you, Dabney's an interesting fella. He does custom fabrication. He'll build a lowrider truck for you. He'll build a specialty street truck. He's really big into street trucks and sports trucks. Meanwhile, Dan Runte is a full-time monster truck driver, what he does for a living.
Now, Dabney, of course, has that left lane. There's the right lane at Bigfoot. Dan Runte won 8 straight events this season. And, of course, Lady Luck at that point looked the other way. He's had a terrible run the last 3 outings.
Yeah, but when you know you're going to be national champion, hey, you're going to, I'm already starting to look at color TVs and stuff like that if I'm in his shoes. Remember, let's see what Dabney does this time, because like I say, the last time he tricked the starter into starting the race when he wanted to. Now, Dan Runte knows the trick, too. He's going to go in slow, I'll guarantee you, in the starting line. He's going to make the starter think about his truck, not the overkill truck.
Well, of course, Dabney's staging a little late. Yeah, there goes.
Hey, move with him. We got a race, Gary.
Bigfoot. Bigfoot by not quite a length of a truck at a 493. So Dan Runte will advance to the semis with that 493. As we look again, it was close at the tree, but in no man's land once again. It was all Dan Runte, and the big blue Ford wins by almost a length. So he goes to the semis, and he's with Army Armstrong.
Dan, if you're going to win the big one, the last race of the year, this is the one you got to go after, and everybody is coming after you.
Yeah, you know, everybody wants this race going out. PENDA Point Series, the last race, like you said, Army. We're doing everything we can. We're just waiting on this round to see if we get lane choice or not. There is a little lane difference. Truck's working well. We'll just have to wait and see.
Well, now we take a look at the teammates. Frolick's teammate, Fred Schaefer, barefoot lane selection, far lane, the right side. And, yeah, they just flip-flopped from what we just saw in the Bigfoot Ford.
We got a race. Gary, we got a race. Barefoot takes the win. And look at this, the quickest ever. A 4.59. The quickest run ever in monster truck racing. We just witnessed it.
It will be an all-Dodge final here at the Indiana State Fairgrounds. Here's the fastest guy ever, Fred Schaefer.
Dan, not exactly the end you were looking for. I know you want to go out in a blaze of glory, but you're going out the national champion. That's got to make you feel good. More wins than anybody else. You and the Ford teams have really dominated the sport this year. The Dodgers had a good day today. You can't take that away from them.
Yeah, they did. You know, they've run good all year. We come out with, like you said, the Ford team, and I got to give all those guys all the credit I can. I mean, they're great. We'll take another championship, give it to Ford, and come back next year. I mean, that's all we can do right now. They had a good day. We had a lot of good days. So we're champions, and they're coming in behind us.